Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to this evening's meeting of the Livingston County Board of Commissioners. The first item on the agenda is a moment of prayer. Commissioner Fiani.
Thank you. Heavenly Father, we thank you for the men and women who serve and have served our country to protect our freedom in this constitutional republic. God of power and might, wisdom and justice, please accept the prayers we offer for our first responders and members of law enforcement who keep our community safe and secure. In your goodness, watch over our nation so that people everywhere may enjoy freedom, security, and peace. Grant that we may be enabled by your powerful protection to always seek the ways of righteousness, justice, and mercy. We ask this through Christ our Lord. Amen.
Amen. Thank you, Commissioner. The next item on the agenda is the Pledge of Allegiance to the flag. And before you get too far along the road here, we normally have one of our guests lead us in the pledge. However, I felt that because of what's going on here this evening and in the recent past, that all members that are in the chamber and in the overflow rooms should stand up with us and offer the Pledge of Allegiance to our flag. Please stand. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Madam Clerk, would you call the roll, please?
Commissioner Helserman.
Here.
Commissioner Domas.
Here.
Commissioner Sample.
Here.
Commissioner Nakagiri.
Here.
Commissioner Drick.
Here.
Commissioner Deaton.
Here.
Commissioner Smith.
Here.
Commissioner Fiani.
Here.
And Commissioner Gross.
Here.
A quorum is present.
Thank you. Next item on the agenda is the approval of the agenda. Chair will entertain a motion to approve the agenda.
Move the agenda as given.
Second, Sample.
Agenda has been approved and moved and supported. Are there any questions or additions or comments at all? All those in favor, I'm sorry. Yes, sir.
I believe there's one item that is supposed to be removed from the agenda. Item number 10, a tabled item from a previous meeting.
Yes, sir.
A resolution approving an appointment to the Livingston County Human Services Collaborative Board. It's my understanding that the individual nominated has withdrawn their name, and so there's no action required.
Thank you, Mr. Commissioner.
I second the amendment.
So it's been moved and supported that we withdraw, that we table, that we eliminate that item from the agenda because of the applicant's withdrawal of his name. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those approved. The next item on the agenda is I'm
Mr.
sorry.
Chair, was that a friendly amendment to move that without objection since that person has withdrawn?
Yes.
Okay,
Yes.
okay, thank you.
Now, we don't have to.
Now we can vote on the amended agenda.
All right.
All we gotta do is approve amended agenda now. So.
All those in favor of the amended agenda, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Okay. Next on the agenda is an award of recognition to Mr. Mark Robinson, and I would ask our Commissioner Jay Gross to make that presentation. Sir?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. From time to time, the county board will recognize some of our employees who are nominated for an Employee of the Quarter award. Some of those come from supervisors, some from coworkers. Occasionally, and quite often, actually, we get nominations from the public, from you folks. And so it's always a joy for us to recognize those people. At other times, we have employees who have put in many years of service to the county and are retiring. And so we are honored to be able to recognize their service to the people of this county. Every once in a while, not very frequently, I'm afraid, we get an opportunity to recognize the activities of somebody in the community. And we are doing that this evening. We are recognizing the dedication and service and outstanding commitment of a man who, perhaps a little slight in stature, has the heart and soul of a giant. I'm referring to Mr. Mark Robinson, who is about to become the Executive Director Emeritus of Livingston County Catholic Social Services. And so we're taking a few moments of this important meeting tonight to recognize Mark, and I would ask him to please step forward. Mark came to Livingston County a little over 22 years ago.
Commissioner, we cannot hear you. If you could please speak into a microphone, that would be great.
As I was saying, Mark came to us a little over 22 years ago, joined Catholic Charities. At the time, they had 5 programs, a handful of people, and a budget of about $500,000. Today, they have 17 programs and 46 employees and a budget of $3 million. The programs that Mark has been instrumental in bringing to this county are amazing. He would say his most famous program is the adult daycare program. And for those of you that don't know what that is, I can tell you a true story. I've been fortunate in my life to have found 2 wonderful women that I was able to marry. My first wife's parents lived in Indiana, and when my first mother-in-law reached her 70th birthday, we noticed she wasn't doing too well mentally. And we found out that she had dementia. And she lived for 12 years with that. And what was truly amazing was that my father-in-law left her side for 3 hours a week for 12 years. Wednesday night, he would go to church for choir rehearsal. Sunday, he would go to mass to sing with the choir. The rest of the hours, day in, week in, month in, year in, he was with his wife until she passed away. They did not have a program in his area like Mark has brought to Livingston County. The program that he's got is truly amazing. It's a wonderful program. And if you have any relatives who are showing signs of dementia, I urge you to call Catholic Charities. And there's a bit of a misnomer there. It's Livingston County Catholic Charities, but the programs are open to anybody. It's not a Catholic organization per se. They will treat, they will talk, they will do anything they can for everybody in the community. So having said that, I guess I'd like to take a moment to read this plaque. The Livingston County Board of Commissioners recognizes Mark Robinson for his outstanding service to our community over 2 decades. Through his direction and steadfast devotion, many residents are enjoying a higher quality of life. Thank you, Mark, for your dedication. Your initiatives will continue to make a positive impact in our county for years to come. Signed by Commissioner Domas, but I'm sure all of my colleagues would agree that it's certainly a well-deserved honor. Thank you.
Thank you. To all of the commissioners, thank you. People might not know, but the county, your taxes here in the county do help to support the adult day program. I think about 10% of our expenses are covered by the county, and we're very grateful for that support. The county is also this year stepped forward to support a new program for seniors, chore and home injury control. We're very grateful for that. One of my coworkers, Beth Newman, who supervises our senior outreach program, is here tonight. And that home chore and injury control program is part of her. The vice president of our board, Heather Ashelman, is the young man here with the camera. And another board member, Michael Sage, is with us tonight too. I'm grateful for all of the community support for Livingston County Catholic Charities. And that support has definitely made my job easier over these 22 years, knowing that we have the community behind us. Thank you very much.
You want to come up here with us?
I think that was.
Anything you need. Short guys in the center. You stay as long as you want.
Thank you so much, everyone.
Over here, please. All right. Thank you, sir. All of you. Thank you. Yes. Before we proceed, I would like to ask the people in this little corner over here to be sensitive to the needs of our county clerk, who has to remember what we say and try to remember everything that you say. That's a lot of things being said. So if you would please give her the courtesy, not you. No. All right, the next item on the agenda is correspondence. We have correspondence, a resolution honoring the Michigan Association of Counties on its 125th anniversary. Chair will entertain a motion.
Motion to accept and place on file correspondence.
Support Deaton.
Are there any questions or comments? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
I'm sorry, Commissioner Jay. The next item on the agenda is call to the public. That will be handled by Commissioner Drick. And before he gets started, I just want to say a couple of things and about the First Amendment. I know most of you are here to hear something about the Second Amendment, and we'll get to that too. But the First Amendment is the one that protects our free speech. And that means whether you like what someone says or what they don't say. And so I'm asking you to treat everyone with respect when they get up here to demonstrate their First Amendment rights. Because when you get up here, you'll want to have them respect yours. And I don't want to hear any disturbances that are inappropriate. And I would just ask that you behave as though you were in church. Now, I know that's not going to happen, but we have to conduct a meeting, and we're not going to be able to do it unless we maintain order in this chamber. So if something does happen that is inappropriate, we'll ask you to cease doing that. If that doesn't work, we'll ask you to leave. That doesn't work, well, we'll have you escorted out of here. And you'll be well cared for by the local law enforcement agencies here in Livingston County. You'll get a free phone call. Tell your boss why you're not going to be at work tomorrow. Or tell your wife why you're not going to be there for breakfast in the morning. So I think you get the picture. Please respect why we're here and what we're doing. And I look forward to continuing this meeting on those terms. So I will turn the meeting over to Commissioner Drick, who will continue with the call to the public. Commissioner Drick, please.
Thank you, Commissioner. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. In order to participate in call to the public in person, you're going to need to have filled out one of the 3x5 cards and deliver it to our able and efficient secretary. So she has
Madam Clerk, please.
that too. Madam Clerk, got it.
Mhm.
That's who you give it to.
Okay.
Anybody on Zoom, use the raise your hand function. You get one chance to talk. Even if you submit 6 cards, you don't get 6 chances. None of that, no stacking. This is not a question and answer period. We don't respond to questions. We don't respond to people saying, raise your hand or stand up or any of that stuff. We listen, and that's all we do. You address just me. The other 8 commissioners are out of bounds. You don't get to address them, just me. This is a call to the public, not a yell in the public. Don't be crude, don't be rude. Robert's Rules of Order, through our bylaws and rules, allow us to limit this to facts and concerns within the jurisdiction of the Board of Commissioners. We're lenient, however. Please understand that there are 2 statutes that do cover this meeting. First is the disturbing a public meeting statute, which you don't want to get involved with. And the other is libel and slander of politicians. We're just like regular people. We can be libeled and slandered, some exceptions. So be careful what you're saying because the evidence is being taped too. With that, it's 3 minutes each. We keep track up here. We'll try to signal you when your 3 minutes is close to being over. We're not super strict, but we're going to tell you when to stop. With that, the call to the public, Madam Clerk, if you would give us the first name and then the second name, and the second name called needs to be ready to come up quickly after the first one's over, so we don't have tons of time that's wasted. Madam Clerk.
Steve Grono, Genoa Township, and Steve Livingston, Howell Township, on behalf of Reaching Higher.
Certainly. Make sure both,
Sharon Staton from Marion will be following these 2.
make sure your microphones are on. There should be a red light at the bottom that's
Green light.
Green light.
Green light.
green down there.
Greens go, red stop.
Okay.
Matter who goes first?
Not at all. How about the handsomest?
Okay, thank you, Steve. Good evening, everyone. My name is Steve Livingway. I am a retired principal from Heartland Middle School. I was principal for 20 years. I've lived here in Livingston County since 1995. I'm here to talk about probably not the big topic tonight. I'm here to talk about something called Reaching Higher. A couple of my colleagues are in back there, Troy Weidman and Jane Telking, to support. I'm also on the board of the Heartland Teen Center. I'm also in the Livingston Sunrise Rotary. I'm also a proud Howell Elk. I want to talk about Reaching Higher and ask you to consider moving forward with the resolution that was passed back in December to help fund Reaching Higher in all of our local school districts. As a principal, I taught this my last 5 years, and it changes lives. It is the most transformational thing I've been a part of. I'm now the director of the youth program, and my job is to get us in as many schools as possible. Here in Livingston County, we've been very fortunate to have a lot of support. We've been here for 25 years. And as you guys, I'm sure know, COVID did a number on kids. and I believe we're needed now more than ever. I wanted to use part of my time to read a letter from one of my students. And I won't name which middle school, but a middle school here in Livingston County, and it was just last semester. The truth is, reaching higher helped me. Before, I was shy and blank. I was dead inside. I didn't feel anything. I'm not the smartest or strongest person in the world, and I know this world is not fair. But after reaching higher, I see myself more as a person, not some mistake. Reaching higher helped me realize, even though I'm not the best at a certain thing in life, I still have purpose and I can help the people I love. My childhood so far has been okay and fine, but I remembered a lot of stuff from long ago. Now I can see myself forgive those people that hurt me and forgive myself. I know it is not my fault. The topic will still affect me, but I will use the strength I learned in reaching higher to do better than those that hurt me. So that was a 7th or an 8th grader at one of the schools. I sent you guys a lot of information. I just want you to know that I'm more than happy to answer any questions. I sent a little presentation. I was able to get some funding last year from Livingston Sunrise Rotary, and I was thanking them for their support for reaching higher. We have mentors in the community, and I'd say we served between 400 and 500 kids in Livingston County this school year, including 4 summer programs yet to happen this summer.
You're close. Time
So
to wrap it up.
just thank you for the opportunity. Thank you for considering the funding, the ARPA funding for reaching higher. And if you move forward and approve it, you're going to do a lot of good for a lot of kids in our community. Thank you.
Yep. Well, amen, Steve. Great summary. I'm just a volunteer for Reaching Higher. My name is Steve Grono, and I felt compelled to come and speak as a cheerleader for Reaching Higher, only because I have a lot of face time with the students. I started volunteering in house schools in about 12 or 13 years ago. When Susie Dahlman, the founder, came and spoke to our Rotary Club about Reaching Higher, which really intrigued me, and it motivated me to come and see. I went to a graduation, and after a full box of Kleenex, I realized how important that this program really is. So they invited me to jump in as a mentor. I've been doing it ever since. I probably have mentored a couple dozen classes, a few hundred kids here locally. Currently, we're at Southwest. I'm going to be delivering next week session 5 for the kids. And I just thought it might be helpful for you guys to know more about the heart of this program. I don't know all the terms that seem to be buzzwords today, the SEL that seems to be a big bugaboo. I don't know what that is. I don't know what people think of it. I just know what this program does for kids. And I don't know how to put a better label on it than it should be every kid, every school, every year. So this is what I do in session 5. I speak as an example to the kids to motivate them to speak in a similar way. So usually when the leaders speak about something highly emotional, it helps the kids to dig deep and speak about something they're feeling. This session is called Changing Limiting Beliefs. And every kid comes to school with some limiting belief about himself. I'm not good enough. I'm too fat. I'm too stupid. My parents don't like me. My mom is an alcoholic. My siblings hate me. I've heard it all. I've had kids that cut themselves. I've had kids that attempted suicide. I've had some superstar leaders. This is a true leadership class. And it doesn't get better than the lessons, the 8 lessons in this 8-week program. What I do in this class is tell the kids you're not alone, and I tell them my story. And I don't have time to tell you that, but you'd all need Kleenex for my story. And once the kids hear that, they're asked to come and talk about their story. And what they're doing when they come and they release those emotions is they expose their little tender hearts to us. And it's okay. When they release it, a problem shared is half solved. And those kids share that problem with us. And we get our arms around them. We teach them the way to convert that negative belief into a positive belief. So in that session, there's a lot of good life-changing stuff that happens in just one. And there's 8 of these that are just like this, that are just so amazingly powerful. So you'll probably be seeing me from now until you vote on the money. and I'll come and I'll talk more about different sessions in Reaching Higher, try to help everybody be comfortable with the money. But for the $150,000 that we're asking for, I can't put a price on how much good it'll do for kids in this community. So thanks for your time.
Thank you, Steve.
Thank you, Steve. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Sharon Staton, Marion Township, followed by Gregory O'Neill.
So thank you for listening to me tonight. I'm really tired of the eroding away of our fundamental constitutional rights as American citizens. Our two-way constitutional right to own and bear arms must be protected. Our freedom is at stake, and I'm confident our commissioners and our sheriff will stand strong for the people of Livingston County. Thank you.
Gregory O'Deal, Conway Township,
Gregory
followed
O'Neill from
by
Conway Township.
Jessica Bearfield.
I'd just like to thank all the commissioners for taking up this issue on this constitutional county resolution. You gentlemen are patriots. I urge you to support this resolution. I know you're getting a lot of flack. The sheriff's taking a lot of flack. But what the sheriff wants to do is protect his men and women in his department. These red flag laws are going to come into effect. They're going to be signed into law. And we don't want to see a deputy have to go up to someone's home in the middle of the night and tell them that their guns are going to be taken away. It's a recipe for disaster. I believe that the sheriff should exercise his own discretion on how this is going to be handled. And I urge you to give him all the support you can. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Jessica Bearfield, Putnam Township, followed by Pamela Beach.
Jessica Bearfield, Putnam Township. Good evening, commissioners. The Soviet Union, Bulgaria, East Germany, Hungary, Nazi Germany, Cuba, Venezuela. What do all these countries have in common? They are all countries that disarmed their good citizens and then used their inability to defend themselves to control them and move towards communism. In 1890, the 7th Cavalry confiscated firearms from a group of Lakota Sioux under the guise of it being for their own safety and protection. After the majority peacefully turned in their firearms, the cavalry began shooting the Sioux and nearly wiped out their entire camp. Of the dead were 200 women and children. This event is known as the Massacre at Wounded Knee in South Dakota. One only needs to look at history to see that when a population of good, honest people are removed of their ability to defend and protect themselves, then only the armed and evil remain. Cain killed Abel with a rock. Adrian Oswaldo mowed down an entire crowd of people at a parade with his car. Pedro Grajales stabbed and killed his wife to death. These are just the skim of the surface of brutal murders not committed with a firearm. It is not about guns. It is about mentally ill and or evil people. If evil and mental illness remain, they will find a way to carry out their sinister plans with or without firearms. The Second Amendment gives the citizens of this country the right to keep and bear arms and shall not be infringed. The Ninth Amendment gives all rights not specified in the Constitution to we the people, not the government. Our laws work in a hierarchy. The U.S. Constitution is the highest governing law. Any lower law repugnant to the Constitution is void. I have full faith that each of you will uphold the oath you took to the Constitution and pass this resolution to make and keep Livingston County a constitutional county. The Founding Fathers created the Second Amendment with the sole purpose of empowering the people of the United States to have the ability to resist any tyranny that might threaten them. The only thing necessary for evil to triumph is for good men to do nothing. I know you all to be good men. Now is the time to stand in the face of evil and make history for doing what is right, not what is easy. Thank you.
Pamela Beach, Oakwood Drive, followed by Dale Brewer.
Thank you for the opportunity to speak to you. I've had a couple incidents and I realized that this proves that our rights are important. I've had more, but these two should prove it. My husband and I were at Kroger in Commerce Township. My husband had a CPL and his gun in his coat pocket. We were on our way out. We were on our way out of the store and we're going to our car. And two guys acting very crazy and erratic, laughing and jumping around, walking up to us. Something was wrong. We knew that. My husband looked them in the eyes and asked if he could help them. They said no, but continued to act crazy. My husband told told me to take the groceries, go to the car. From the car, I saw them exchange words. I saw the two guys put their hands up and start walking backwards, and we were able to leave unharmed. The next incident happened right here in downtown Howell. It was on President's Day last year. It was the first President's Day that I was here. I did not know the police department was closed that day, but clearly the criminals did. I was walking down the downtown for exercise like I always did. I was on Wetmore, getting close to center, when I noticed two men walking towards me. I passed one and then the other. I heard them say, "That's her." They turned and walked towards me. All of a sudden, I heard a huge scraping sound. It was a man pulling his trash can out to the curb, and I realized he must have seen what was happening. The men turned back and walked away from me. I walked to the corner coffee house. Then I looked outside and saw a guy on the corner grazing back and forth, looking for someone. It didn't feel safe. I waited and then looked out, and it looked clear. I walked west towards the library and noticed a man. He was parked on the side of the road, and he was sitting in his car. I noted it, got to the library, went in and waited. So I decided to be bold. I went outside. I saw his car in front of the stairway to the library. So I decided to be bold. I walked out right in front of the car, put my phone up and started to dial. He started backing up and left. In closing, I believe those men knew the police were off. It shows that that when there is no protection, the bad get brave. People need to be able to protect themselves and their families. People with bad intentions do not want to get caught. The bad things, the good being strong, keep the bad, keep bad intentioned people helpless. If the guns are in the hands of well-meaning people, everyone is safer. And that's what I have
Thank
to
you.
say.
Thank you, ma'am.
Mhm.
Dale Brewer, followed by Laszlo Slay.
Good evening. I want to start by thanking you gentlemen for standing up for the Constitution and for the vote that you'll be taking tonight. I want to thank the citizens of Livingston County for electing you to be the strong and to stand up for what's right. I also want to thank Sheriff Murphy for his statements. Again, he's standing up for what's right and standing up for the Constitution. I think that's probably the most important thing that we can do. God has, our Creator gives us the unalienable right, and the purpose for the government is to make the weak stand up for the weak from the strong. Right now, the appearances are that the Democrats in Lansing are the strong. We're the weak. We must stand up. We must take a stand. I know from some of the comments that I've been reading that there are numerous counties and around the state of Michigan that are taking notice to us, not just because of the media, but because they see what's right. They want to take a similar stance, and they're looking strongly to do it because that is the way that the Constitution says. There's nothing more strong than the Constitution. The governor can make these laws. She can do what she thinks she wants to do. She can pass them, but she's not amending the Constitution by doing it. Therefore, the Constitution stands strong, both in Michigan and the United States Constitution. It's important, again, that we stand up for that. I want to say that I stand up for the Constitution. I stand for each of you and support each of you for what you're going to be doing tonight, supporting the Constitution. I stand for Sheriff Murphy for upholding the Constitution and supporting it. And I pray for all of you for your well-being. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Jake.
Laszlo Slay, Hamburg Township, followed by Marilyn Earps.
Good evening, Councilman. Thanks for letting us speak. First off, my name is Laszlo Slay. I'm from Hamburg Township. I'm a first-generation American. My family came from Hungary. They fought 3 times. My parents were born into the German occupation, and then they fought through the Russian occupation. I lost over a third of my family. My folks came here after the stand up from 1956 in October 31st until November 10th. They held out, they kicked out the Russian army with pitchforks, bats, hammers, and whatever it is they take, and then they took the weapons off their aggressors. Our country, our four founders, they came from a country that early on, out of 220 some countries that were recognized, they invaded and took 200 of them and put them under their rule. Our founding fathers looked at that and they knew it. So they wrote the Constitution. Under the Constitution, they put 21 amendments. So if we can take the Second Amendment and throw it out the door because it was written a long time ago, let's throw the first out. How about the 14th? How about the 18th? How about the rights for we fought for women's suffrage when they could vote? How about the age of 18 of our voters? Let's toss them out. That's what they're doing. And if we give them one, they'll take more. Madison wrote that under the Constitution that if you have only armed armies and not civilians, the civilians were put in fact to hold a militia and they were held to the rights to carry the same weapons and to have all the kit. And when they were called upon to have protections of their state and their country, when the revolution came, if they didn't have it, they were held in contempt and jailed. It wasn't, well, you can have this, but you can't have that. They were instructed to have the same weaponry that the standing army had, and that's how we want it. As it went forward, in the Federalist Papers of Madison, he wrote that it'll be an inalienable right for the people to hold and bear arms because any government with troops will find tyranny and put down the people. It's over history. They've seen it. They came from a country that did that. So they believe that we should do that ourselves so we will not lose our rights. And I got some notes because my TBI stopped me. After I served 18 years in the military, from the Marine Corps to the CIA with intelligence gathering, I served in 7 different countries and they were all in hostility. I went there because their people were taking away their rights. Their people were taking away their means to protect themselves. And who did they send? The United States. No questions asked. And our people stood up and they went and they fought for the rights of others because we had the rights. Why do they inflate our borders right now? Because we're free and they're seeing a good way of life. That good way of life is leaving us at a great speed because a lot of the constitutional rights that were amended to us are not being said. In 1903, our government passed a law that restricted guns. Up until that point, you can walk around the street, carry your sidearms on you, and you can have anything you wanted. But they saw it off because it was getting a little too much and they wanted to put more restrictions on us. Then came the prohibition, then came the repeal of it, then came suffrage, then came the options of 63 when they went back after the weapons. How much time I got left?
Take 10 seconds.
Well, what I'm saying is do your homework, do your work. I know you all done it, and I see we have veterans sitting on this. So take up your time tonight, look at it and understand. You strip the rights, we'll be on our knees. And there's nothing about you can say because history has given that. Thank you. Thank you.
Marilyn Earps, Plymouth, Michigan, followed by Tricia Fessler.
I came here today to support the people of Livingston County. I support the resolution of Livingston County to become a constitutional county. And I would like you to seriously consider that opportunity. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am.
Tricia Fessler, Heartland Township, followed by Mike
Hello, Commissioners. I usually don't get up and public speak, but this is such an important topic that I feel like I need to. So I'll make it short and quick, but thank you for bringing this resolution up to a vote. The problem we have in this state and nation is not a gun problem. In fact, it is a spiritual and mental problem. Restricting law-abiding citizens of their God-given and constitutional rights will not fix this problem. The only solution to that is Jesus Christ and the good mental health resources. This is what will fix this. I encourage you to vote yes on this resolution tonight, reaffirming Livingston County as a constitutional county, as every county in America should be, should go without saying. So thank you for your great service.
Mike Bambus, Michigan, followed by Jennifer Smith.
Good evening, Board, and thank you for taking this issue up. And I'm glad to see you're going to reaffirm your oath to the Constitution. We have other issues at hand here that also need to be addressed. First of all, we have a situation where the laws that are being passed are repugnant to the Constitution, but it isn't just the ones being passed by our so-called state legislators. It's under proclamation, under Executive Order 2019-06, Governor Nitwit decided to grant legislative powers to every branch and director of every agency within the executive branch of the state of Michigan. This is unconstitutional. In addition, we have a situation where, and it has been now confirmed, that every state legislator is operating under a Dun and Bradstreet number. This board is operating under a Dun and Bradstreet number. The Sheriff's Department, the jails, the courts, they are all operating under Dun and Bradstreet numbers. I bring this to your attention because in accordance with the Clearfield Doctrine of 1947, revisited by the United States Supreme Court in 2008, any government entity operating under a Dun and Bradstreet number loses its government sovereignty. You are operating no different than any other jack-in-the-box corporation for profit. You are not representing the people. You are operating as a corporation for profit. If you're going to be a constitutional county, I'd like to hear when you're going to cease and desist operating under a Dun and Bradstreet number. If you're going to operate as a constitutional county, when are you going to take a hard look at what's happening with our courts? I have FOIA'd every judge's oath of office in Livingston County. Not one judge in this county has a proper oath of office. It does not fulfill the requirements under Article 11, Section 1 of the Michigan Constitution, nor do they have any form of oath of office in accordance with 4 U.S.C. 101, 5 U.S.C. 3331, or 28 U.S.C. 453. We have imposters. We have trespassers upon the court. If Sheriff Murphy is upholding us as a constitutional county, when would he be willing to arrest them as such? Because they're committing a felony.
Short time.
Thank you. I'd like to hear what this board is going to do in regards to these issues, because if you're going to be a constitutional county, you have to address all of these issues, not just the right to bear arms. We know we have a right to bear arms. It's written, it's in stone. The Constitution is not a living document, it is a written document. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Jennifer Smith, Genoa, followed by Dan Woolahan.
Is this working? Okay. Good evening, Commissioners. In the words of Martin Luther King, there comes a time when silence is betrayal. And as I have sat in front of you many times, coming in here and asking you to be considerate of liberties and freedoms for our children of Livingston County, today I come to you for a different reason. I support the constitutional amendment and would like to thank the many citizens of our county that have taken the time to see this resolution through as a grassroots effort. Commissioners, I would like to convey my gratitude for your unwavering support in upholding the foundations of our Constitution, because that is exactly what you are doing as you vote yes on the resolution. You are asserting that God, family, and country are principles you are establishing yourself as faithful to. It is essential that we have leaders like you who remain committed to preserving the fundamental rights of we the people. I'd like to thank you all for your service to our county. And I'd just like to ad lib and say at the end, I will repeat what I said to you last week. Most of you know me very well, and you know my children are all children in school in our county. And I am the poster child for these red flag laws. And it is unfair that my children be persecuted, my husband be persecuted, and I be persecuted for having an opinion, believing in God, and taking a political position that defends my rights. So not only is it important for everyone in this room, but if you do this for nothing, it should be done for me, because I set the precedent for all of the other parents that come behind me. And we should not be put on this type of pedestal where we're being red flagged as people. In closing, I want to read something from John Adams that he stated in a letter to his wife. Liberty once lost is lost forever. When the people once surrender their share in the legislature and their right of defending the limitations upon the government and of resisting every encroachment upon them, they can never regain it. Thank you.
Dan Woolahan, Genoa Township, followed by Cheryl Picard.
Dan Wallahan, Genoa Township. Last time I spoke to the subcommittee, I mentioned that more places need to be like Livingston County, which is armed and has a much lower homicide rate than the surrounding counties. I also said that red flag laws are against 5 of our constitutional amendments will get people killed here like it will in Maryland, or did in Maryland. I support this resolution. The board took an oath to the Constitution, needs to keep its oath. I thank Sheriff Murphy for his comments earlier today, but he and Prosecutor Reeder won't be here forever. We need to keep that in mind as well. I'll mention 2 other things here. People use discretion on laws that are enforced or that may be on the books all the time. Pot is banned federally still to this day. Even though it's, you see pot shops in Michigan, it's legal in the state, but it's still technically illegal. It's also a 5-year felony today for a man to sleep with an unmarried woman. It's still on the books. The other thing I'll mention is history. Governments have a history of abusing power. Always have, always will. Democracy itself in its truest form is 2 wolves and a sheep voting on what's for dinner, mob rule. The strength of the U.S. is checks and balances, and we need to check Lansing. Firearms in the hands of citizens is a check on government power. The U.S. is not perfect in its history. It's abused power. Wounded Knee, Waco, the old fugitive slave law can attest to that. The first gun control laws were Jim Crow laws or KKK protection laws like 1920s Michigan gun laws after Dr. of Science Sweet defended his family against a mob. Much of law today is from English common law, although not all of us here are white Anglo-Saxon Protestants. I'm not. The history of non-WASP are rife with discrimination, either here, abroad, or both. Everyone who is Irish or American Irish who understands history knows the atrocities from government which occurred in the old country. Oliver Cromwell, the Williamite War, the famine. The Wallahans arrived in the U.S. from County Cork in 1863, surviving all that. After the Williamite War, the infamous penal laws of Ireland were enacted in an attempt to eradicate Catholicism. They disallowed voting, right to keep and bear arms, education, religion, and land owning. It was oppression. I'm going to read one of these. Section 3, every Catholic, they use the term papist, excuse my language, who shall have or keep any arms or ammunition, shall refuse to appear and make discovery under their oath, shall forfeit, if appears for the first offense, 100 pounds sterling, and for a second offense, suffer, I can't pronounce this, premium mari, forfeiture of property in prison is what that is. The penalties and sums forfeited should go 1/2 to His Majesty, 1/2 to the informer, who should sue for the same.
Short time.
We will not allow that to happen here. I'll leave with a quote from Malcolm X, and it may surprise some of you. Have a lot of respect for him. Nobody can give you freedom. Nobody can give you equality or justice or anything. If you're a man, you take it. We need to take our freedoms and keep them. And we welcome all of you to join us as this check and balance on Lansing. Thank you.
Cheryl Picard, Plymouth, followed by Robert Scott.
Hi, I'm Cheryl Picard, and I'm from Plymouth and Wayne County. And I'm one of those who saw what was going on here and was real impressed with that and would be hopeful that our county would ever do that. But I do support the resolution for Livingston County to become a constitutional county. And just hope that you will consider that. I think it's very important. I think our constitution has been ignored quite a bit lately. And just wish that that would also be encouraged to be taught in our schools more. Thank you.
Robert Scott Howell, followed by Jason Wolford.
If you don't mind, I'm not going to sit down. I'm sure you gentlemen are very familiar with history and what's happened with this, with weapons around the world as they've been taken away. Thank you, gentlemen, for making Livingston County a sanctuary, a two-way sanctuary county. Now we're asking you to make it a constitutional county by nullifying the red flag laws. They have one purpose and one purpose only, to take our weapons from us. Any person out there, if they know you and they know you have weapons, can file a charge against you and say, he's crazy, he's this, he's that. And then he has to prove his own innocence after the guns are taken away at his own cost. And he may or may not ever get them back. So those red flag laws serve one purpose. It's an end around the Constitution. I'm asking you, gentlemen, uphold the Constitution, nullify these red flag laws the best you can by making this a constitutional county. And on a further note, I personally know the Dahlmans, and they're upstanding people, and Reaching Higher is a great program. I've personally worked on several of the fundraisers for them in the past. If it comes up, I encourage you to vote for that too.
Jason Wolford, Genoa Township, followed by Rod Rodriguez Pelazari.
Well, first, gentlemen, I'll be praying for you because last election, when I ran for Michigan State House of Representatives as a 2A candidate, I got death threats, which I thought was ironic that I was a Second Amendment person and people wanted to kill us. So I'll be praying for you. As a Marine Corps veteran, my wife, who's a Marine veteran, my daughter, who's currently serving in the Marine Corps, as a patriot, a citizen, it blesses me to know that we have commissioners and a sheriff that understand the law. Just because a rogue Democratic Party and a few so-called Republicans draft legislation for red flag laws that does not trump the Constitution. The overreach is too far and unsafe for our law-abiding citizens and our police. Implementing more laws for law-abiding citizens is not the solution. Remember, it was a liberal judge that never held the MSU shooter accountable years prior. This is not about the safety of our children, especially when those that are saying they want to take our guns are the same people willing to kill a sweet, innocent baby at 9 months in the womb, and also let our children mutilate their bodies. My question is, why don't they follow all the current laws for those that are actually have committed crimes? Knives under firearms are also used for murders and crimes. Are there going to be laws implemented to get rid of those as well? They are targeting the wrong items and the wrong people. Imagine a society that you live in. I can't, as a United States Marine, where a law-abiding citizen and a police officer has to show up to your house and take your weapons with no cause or justification due to a false claim. I'm concerned for the lives of our law enforcement and those that served our country wanting to keep their weapons. Lastly, it's hypocrisy and hypocritical on the largest scale as the governor and the Speaker of the House and Dana Nessel all were guarded by people with weapons as they were at an anti-gun rally. Remember, those that are against our constitutional rights to carry are letting criminals go every day across the United States of America. Lastly, I was in Chicago just 2 days ago in a gun-free zone. There was another riot in the streets and we actually left a day early for our safety. It is one of the highest places for gun shootings, even though it's a gun-free zone. Gun-free zones do not work. Remember, the Boston Marathon bombers under pressure cookers use pressure cookers. Bad people will find whatever means possible to do bad. Do not punish American citizens that follow the law. Lastly, I've traveled the globe, and where there are state and country gun-free zones, they are some of the most dangerous places I've been in the world. Thank you again to Mike Murphy, the sheriff, and the commissioners for passing this resolution. Robert 2A and all the patriots. God bless you. Semper Fi.
Rob Rodriguez Palazzari from Brighton, followed by Denise Watts.
Gun-free zones are actually criminal empowerment zones. 96% of all mass shootings from 1999 to present happened in gun-free zones. These are cited, credentialed facts that you can get off of, anyone can get off of the web. This fact proves that gun-free zones not only don't work, they cause mass shootings. Let me put this another way. You and your family, while you're getting groceries, have a 96% chance of getting involved in a mass shooting. That's surreal. Open carrying and concealed carry is the answer. 60% of the criminals said that they would not attack somebody with a firearm. They would instead find somebody who's an easier target, somebody unarmed. 80% of those same criminals said that they would not attack a house that they knew had armed homeowners. This is straight from the mouths of the people who do the crime. They're telling you that crime is solvable by citizens carrying firearms. I've heard some absurd comments during the push to get this constitutional county resolution passed. The greatest of these fallacies is that Livingston County is attempting to split or secede from the state. Think about that. A county that is affirming the Constitution of Michigan and affirming the Constitution of the United States is somehow means that they're seceding. I challenge that. I challenge to say that what it actually states is that those who intentionally create laws that are unconstitutional are themselves seceding from the United States and Michigan. A quote from SCOTUS, an unconstitutional act is not law. It confers no rights, it imposes no duties, it affords no protection, it creates no office, and it is in legal compilation and inoperative as if it never passed. This is SCOTUS talking, Norton versus Shelby. I personally applaud you, gentlemen. You are very brave. Not only the county is watching you, the state is watching you, and I challenge the country is watching you right now. We have been so without a voice for so long. God bless you all.
Denise Watts, Pinckney, followed by David Pike.
I'll be real quick. I just want to say I support the resolution. I support Mike Murphy and the Sheriff's Department, and thank you all for your service.
David Pike, Hamburg Township, followed by Christina Caramo.
Gentlemen, thank you for the opportunity to address you again. I'm going to try to make it short. Pretty much, I appreciate the courage that you must have to pass this because of all the flack that you're going to get or have already gotten. What I really want to say, very make it simple, is that in the past, we've seen that people have complained that if we don't follow the laws, then we're not following the Constitution. And that who are we or you or the sheriff to actually determine what's constitutional? When I took an oath and put a badge on, I had to say sometimes what my captain said wasn't the right thing. And it worked. Some of us have to say what's constitutional. Anyway, real quick, Bruin versus, the Bruin case, the SCOTUS case, there's a couple little things that I just want to point out. One is how it says, since Heller and McDonald, and I'm quoting from the actual decision,
Since Heller and McDonald, the Court of Appeals have developed a two-step framework for analyzing Second Amendment challenges that combines history with means and scrutiny. The court rejects that two-part approach as having one step too many. It goes on to say, in the years since, the Court of Appeals have coalesced around a two-step framework for analyzing Second Amendment challenges that combine history with means and scrutiny. Today, we decline to adopt that two-part approach. In keeping with Heller, we hold that when the Second Amendment's plain text covers an individual's conduct, the Constitution presumptively protects that conduct. To justify its regulation, the government may not simply posit that the regulation promotes an important interest. Bearing with me just a second, red flag laws are exactly what they're talking about. That's a two-step approach. Taking people's guns away is what the Second Amendment's about. Taking that second step and saying it's good for the means end is what SCOTUS, June of last year, said it was unconstitutional. Going back to SCOTUS real quick. Despite the popularity of this two-step approach, it is one step too many, according to the Constitution. We decline to engage in means end scrutiny because the very enumeration of the rights taken out of the hands of government, even the third branch of government, the power to decide a case-by-case basis whether the right is really worth insisting upon, we then conclude a constitutional guarantee subject to future judges' assessments of its usefulness is no constitutional guarantee at all. We all must decide what we feel is constitutional, and I applaud your courage in taking up this constitutional county proposition. Thank you very much.
Ramo Oak Park, followed by Alyssa Davis.
Hello, I sit before you here as a Michigan resident, thanking you for defending the constitutional rights of the people of Livingston County. And I pray that other counties follow suit. So many people who've spoke before me have spoken eloquently of all the historical realities. We can go on and on and on and on about government tyranny against citizens. It's typically called democide. It's when the government mass murders their own people. I suggest people look up the University of Hawaii study about democide and how during the 20th century, we saw mass amounts of citizens being murdered by their government. But the other aspect of this is also many people have been victims of false accusations. I myself have been a victim of a false accusation by an ex made in open court. And that happens to so many people that we've been falsely accused of things, and then we could have our rights taken away from us. And then we'll have to go and defend ourselves to have our rights restored. Well, if someone makes a false accusation against you, sometimes it's very hard to prove the person is telling a lie. How do you prove a negative? It's impossible. So now people are put into a box. And, you know, it's really going to be time for counties to stand up and defend the rights of citizens, because it's clear that our governor and our legislatures are completely out of control. So I don't have a whole lot to say, but thank you. Thank you, because you're going to take heat, you're going to be mocked, but we have to at some point stand up. Otherwise, we're going to lose our country. And if we don't have the right to defend ourselves, as we know, our Second Amendment rights are not about hunting. They're about protecting us from a government with a tyrannical aspirations. That's it. And thank you for protecting our rights. So I hope other counties follow suit. Thank you.
Alyssa Davis, City of Brighton, followed by Steve Miklas.
Good evening, commissioners. Am I on? Okay. Wow, huh? This is big. I mean, you look around and we don't normally have this kind of fan club, do we? I mean, big. So what I was realizing is that there's all this hubbub about Livingston County wants to become a constitutional county. Oh no, we already are. It's our supreme law of the land. So it's mine, it's yours. Everybody else here gets it too. I commend you guys because I'm watching you guys for a while, and this slate of commissioners, like how blessed are we, right? You guys hear us. When you look at the hierarchy of the Constitution, up at the very top, we have God, right? Second tier of power is over here. Third tier, you guys. Then we fall down to the bottom feeders where you got the state government and the federal government. So, I'm here to thank you for hearing us and listening and doing. So you're not just talking the talk, right? A lot of politicians, you hear Charlie Brown's teacher. I'm hearing a little bit of Kid Rock coming out of all you guys, and I think it's really cool. So thank you. Thank you so much. And after this, maybe we can look at the voting machines, huh?
Steph, I'm sorry, Steph Miklas from Howell.
Hi. Steph Miklos from Howell. My dad's name actually was Steve, so very close.
Spelled that
spelling.
way, I'm
Yep,
sorry.
Absolutely. Anyway, on the subject, I guess I'll go there. My dad is from Hungary. He came here when he was 8 years old. You know, had to learn a new language. 1956, the year of the Hungarian Revolution. You know, as a child of I'm a first generation immigrant here. They've had to bury soldiers. My family that's still in Hungary right now, they've had to do some pretty drastic things for their freedom. You know, there's a lot of cult members, MAGA, Trump cult members in the room right now. There's a truck out there blaring some silly music. I find the brainwashing and I have a right to speak. So I know there's a lot of loud voices in this room, but they do not represent this county. Let me tell you, they do not. They represent a portion of it. The rest of the state of Michigan and many sensible people in this county know what's going on in this country, have as well, everyone here does. There's people with many different opinions on it. And as far as these people getting into the Reaching Higher program, which I have great respect for, by all means, give them the funds they need, but keep these people out of that. And I know what their true intentions are in it. They do not like anyone that doesn't act, look like you and me, has different, don't do this to our kids. Don't do it. And I mean it. And my father was an educator for 30 years. He was an educator in this county. I know a lot of reasonable people that are just, you guys look like the optics of this are ridiculous based on this county's history. And I think you all know what I'm talking about. And I have a right to say it. And
No.
Oh, no, you don't have your rights right
Your
now
talk.
to interrupt me. Oh, no, you don't. No, you don't. And just because you're the loudest voice in the room, you are not the decider here. Neither are any one of you here. You are not upholding the law. There are rules in place for the things that are going on in this country. Thank you.
George H., I can't pronounce the last name, from Howell, followed by August Shelter, I believe, from Allegan.
George, your son?
Could be. If you say so.
It's easy. Hello, everybody. Thank you, gentlemen, for standing up for what's right. I actually, as you can tell by my accent, I am a US citizen, but I wasn't born here. I was born in a socialist country. And I can tell you and the people around here, don't let the other side or other sides try to change us, because it's not going to be good. When they take away the ability for a citizen to defend themselves, they basically empower the government to take control over everything in their life. And if you only would talk to, not when you visit Russia or when you visit China, when you go there as a visitor, they treat you good. But if you live there, it's a totally different story. So I encourage you guys to do what's right. And I encourage everybody to stand up for what's right. Thank you.
August Shetler from Allegan, followed by Michael Baldridge.
Thank you for hearing me out. I'm August Shetler. I'm the Michigan State Representative with Gun Owners of America. I'm just here to represent the hundreds of members of our organization that live here and voice my support for this motion. Thank you for listening to me, and that's all.
Michael Baldridge, Osceola Township, followed by Jeremy Gibbs.
Good evening, Michael Baldridge, Osceola Township. First off, I just wanted to say thank you for this resolution. I can't even begin to express how grateful I am for that. As a Christian and as a Marine Corps veteran, I take our rights very seriously. And those that are trying to pass legislation that opposes things that are written in the Constitution are, in my book, a traitor. So I'm grateful for that. And I would like to ask all the attendees if you would join me in a quick prayer for this board. I know we opened up with prayer, but they're going to have a lot of trials and tribulations ahead. If you don't want to join me, that's fine. That's your right. Heavenly Father, I just ask that you continue to provide them with the strength and wisdom and discernment as the days and weeks come. There's going to be a lot of challenges for these people. And I ask that you continue to have them have the faith in you as you are our King and our salvation. I ask that you continue to guide them, give them that wisdom to lead through you. It's in your Son's name we pray. Amen. Thank you.
Jeremy Gibbs, Osceola, followed by, I believe it's Eric Nauka or from Brighton.
Thank you, Commissioners, Mr. Chairman. Most people know very little about our history in the United States and how we came to be. If I said Lexington, the Battle of Lexington, Concord, the shot heard around the world, some people would understand that. A lot of people don't realize that there were actually 5 towns involved in there: Lexington, Concord, Lincoln, present-day Arlington, and Cambridge that were involved there. They don't realize that it was the result of secret orders to go and capture and destroy colonial military supplies reportedly stored in Massachusetts by the militia. What happened as a result of that, or why that came about, was because of a resolution in Suffolk County, Massachusetts. It was called the Suffolk Resolves, and it was a declaration that they felt they had to make. I believe that you are making a declaration you feel you have to make, and I believe you have the support of this community. It's overwhelming out here. The interesting thing is that I downloaded this, among many of them, a timeline of the revolution. It starts with the Battle of Lexington and Concord. I looked up a whole bunch of them. I picked this nice picture for myself, highlighted a couple of things. The Battle of Lexington and Concord wasn't the beginning. If you're a student of history, you understand that. The resolution that you're doing today and the one that was passed in 2020, that's what these are, the Suffolk Resolves. It's not the shot across the bow. It's not the shot heard around the world. It is not a call to arms. It is letting those that think they have the power over us know that we have a binding legal document that usurps them, that says you cannot take away our right to self-defense. It's interesting to me in reading this that before the Suffolk resolve was passed in September 9th, 1774, we had the Boston Tea Party. After this resolve, we had the olive branch petition that was sent in July 5th, 1775. All the time that the colonists were working to try to stay British citizens, they were trying to stay under the crown, but they knew that what was happening there was violating their rights as enumerated in the Constitution, that all men are endowed by their creator with certain unalienable rights, etc. We know that. So I want to commend you all. And we all stand with you. It's been said a number of times tonight that you're going to be scrutinized. You already are. But not by the majority of the people in this room and the majority of the people outside of this room that stand with you. Because you are upholding our God-given rights as enumerated in the Constitution. You are doing a Suffolk resolution. The interesting thing about this is it was passed on September 9th. It says here that the First Continental Congress endorsed the resolves on September 17th and that the Constitutional Association on October 20th. It went from there and it went throughout and it spread. And what you're doing here is very symbolic, and I appreciate you all.
It appears to be E-R-I-C-H, last name N-O-W-K-A from Brighton, followed by Rick Nieper.
First of all, I'd like to thank the board and the members who brought the resolution to the board for full approval. This resolution is very important to the citizens of Livingston County, and I request unanimous approval. Our 232-year-old Second Amendment to the Constitution of the United States was further underscored by Article 1 of the Michigan Constitution in 1963, which explicitly stated, quote, "Every person has the right to keep and bear arms for the defense of himself and the state." Yes votes on this resolution are imperative to affirm each board member's support for our sacred individual right to keep and bear arms. It will also send a very strong message to our elected officials, our elected lawmakers in Lansing and in Washington, that their oath to the Constitution, to support the Constitution, is something that they need to uphold. It will also send a message to the world, actually, I think to the state, the other counties of the state, the nation, and the world, that Livingston County, being a constitutional county, does remain a place where constitutional rights are respected, and it is indeed a place where liberty and justice for all actually remains. Thank you.
Rick Nieper, Hamburg Township, followed by Rick Burrows.
Good evening. Thank you guys for all that you're doing and standing up for the people. I think it's rather obvious that the community supports what you guys are doing for us and appreciates it. I'm just going to read this, keep it real short. It's simply the Constitution of the State of Michigan of 1963, Article 1, Section 6, bearing of arms. Every person has the right to keep and bear arms for the defense of himself and the state. It's real simple. I don't think Lansing has read this. I don't even know if they know it exists. And I don't think they know what the Constitution is. Obviously, our Board of Commissioners does. And thank you for what you're doing.
Rick Burrows, Fowlerville, followed by Kelly Uphouse.
Good evening. I want to first point out an obvious thing to you because it's something I've experienced. I fought for gun rights all the way to the Supreme Court when they were trying to take them away in Madison Heights, Michigan. My life was put in danger and it was threatened several times, and I was part of the Witness Protection Act during that time. I say a strong prayer of God watching over each and every one of you. You're standing up against something that's very, very large, is larger than the state of Michigan. Propaganda. I've been 47 years in the firearm business. After I came out of the service, I opened up my first store in Madison Heights. They want to distort the truth every chance they get because they don't care about our rights. They have an agenda. Those black guns, those assault weapons. I can take that 742 Remington firearm that I go hunting with to put food on the table for my family and paint it black. And it is no different than any other semi-automatic, which they know the difference. Full automatic, you pull the trigger, it continues to fire. Semi, each time you have to pull the trigger for one round. They know this, they don't care. I can paint that Remington black. It will do the same job as any of those black, terrible assault weapons that they talk about. Large capacity, I'll get a 10-round magazine, put it in the bottom. Heck, I can take 2 of them, tape them together, just like they did in Nam. Flip it over, you got another 10. They don't care. They're after all of our rights. They want to make us complete subjects. Now, that's part of the propaganda. Another thing is, my gun has to be locked up in a safe. Oh, yeah? Well, I'm somebody who, before I was in the firearm business, had my front door kicked in by 5 individuals and didn't have a gun available. I was very lucky. The police come after the fact. They're not there protecting you at that moment. I've worked in law enforcement. So when my gun is locked up in the safe and they kick down my door because they don't like me because of something I've said, do I reach up in my headboard to get my firearm that isn't there? Do I run to another room? There isn't time for that. My life is under threat. My wife is under threat. I strongly, strongly believe in the Second Amendment, and I strongly believe that you gentlemen are all doing the right thing. I have to tell you in all honesty, I think you've got some idea of what you're doing, but I don't think you've got everything. You don't know. I've lived it. I've run away from it. I've had my life threatened, even out of state. So you're doing the right thing. I wish God's blessing on you. From the first time that I started in the firearm business, I have seen them take fingernail after fingernail after fingernail of our rights for firearms away. It's got to stop. So thank you. Thank you very much for standing up for all of us. May God's blessing be on you.
Kelly Uphouse, Brighton Township, followed by Ralph Rebant.
Hi, Commissioners. I am here to let you know that I am 100% behind you. I'm a child of the 90s who, prior to the Patriot Act, used to go and hang out at the airport because it was fun. Just saying. So since the product of the Patriot Act, I'll go down the trickle down here. As a mom in our community, I'm in Brighton Township. 3 years ago, I remember constantly saying, this isn't constitutional. This isn't constitutional. When I was being screamed at, chased through a Target store because the day Gretchen Whitmer decided that we didn't have to wear 15 face masks anymore, somebody hadn't gotten the note and decided to corner me with her child, her adult child, and verbally attack me. And people watched. Nobody said anything in defense of me, and that's okay because I don't need people to defend me. But I want you to know that I appreciate you defending our oath. Because over the last 3 years, I've gotten involved in this community a little bit more every day. And I've watched policies that erode everything that was built by that Constitution. I'm watching Automation Alley come in through the WEF. It erodes our schools. It erodes our communities, and it globalizes us. And I want to draw out to you guys because of how appreciative I am that you are taking a stance to the oath that you've taken, because the prior commission before you did not. The pillars of communism, abolition of property, land, application of all rents, and land to the public purposes. We're seeing this happen in every county around us. Washtenaw County is doing it right now too. Abolition of rights of inheritance. Who's lost a loved one? What are you going through right now? Centralization of the means of communication and transport in the hands of the state. I don't trust our media. And I know a lot of people that don't. Every day we're watching our constitutional rights erode, and I appreciate every single one of you that took an oath that is standing today to sign that, because our Second Amendment rights are women's rights. They keep me safe in a country I no longer feel safe in. A kid that used to go play at the airport on the trams does not feel safe in this current country because our AGs don't prosecute the criminals. We are guilty until we're proven innocent now, and that is not the America I grew up in. That's not the America my family fought for. And I recently have taken an oath, and I am right behind you guys in standing with our Constitution, our Second Amendment rights, our First Amendment rights, which our news does not uphold. And I want every one of you to know that I really do appreciate you. I appreciate you putting your neck on the line. I appreciate you listening to your community. That in itself is huge because we haven't been listened to in a very long time. And on that, I say thank you and good night.
Lee Bant from Washtenaw County, followed by Renee, I believe it's Deacon from Heartland.
Good evening. My name is Ralph Rebant. I want to thank you all for taking a constitutional stand against the systemic socialism that's being pushed on we, the people. You know, I'm not sure how politicians can take an oath of office and then deny it by their actions. But I want you to know that as I think of that, I ask, how on earth can they do that? And the only way they can do that is the only way they can deny the Constitution is either A, they haven't read it, or B, they want to dismantle it piece by piece. And so I want you to know that I am very supportive of what you're doing. Guns don't kill people. People kill people, as you know, and as you've heard, historically, socialism wants to take away guns, and you've heard that as well. So I won't go into that. But I want to thank you for your courageous stand, because it's people like you who will ensure that our U.S. Constitution will last for another 236 years, when in fact the average constitution of a nation lasts only 17. I'd like to thank Sheriff Murphy as well for his courageous stand, and want you to know that as I travel through the state, I'm going to be promoting Livingston County as a model county and one to follow. Someone has to take a courageous stand for our constitutional rights against the unconstitutional politicians who need to be impeached. And I want to thank all of you for standing up. You're to be applauded.
Renee from Heartland, followed by Lisa Rosmarnowitch.
Hi, Renee Deachin, Heartland resident for 20 years. I'd like to commend this board, first of all, and our Sheriff Murphy, for defending our constitutional rights. Thank you. Thank you. God bless you. God protect you and strengthen you for the days ahead. And as you can see, you have plenty of support behind you. Most of the points have been more than covered that I would talk about, but I do want to say that again, yeah, guns are not the problem. It's the person behind the gun. It's mental health issues. It's somebody who's hurting and angry and doesn't know how to deal with that. and we do need more resources. I don't know what that answer is, but more resources for counseling. I believe it starts right in the home. So a call to parents. Pay attention to what your kids are doing on a daily basis. Be involved in their lives, care about them, get them the help that they need. They're hurting. This is a very, very confusing time in our country. It's a very dangerous time. Parents, please, please pay attention to your children and love them. Get them the help that they need. Having said that, what we don't need are more liquor aisles in our stores, more fentanyl coming into the country so we can just numb people and it's out of control. It's out of control. The substance abuse, I believe, is part of this violence as well. So why don't we focus on the real issues, the mental health, substance abuse, and yes, people need the peace of Jesus Christ, in my opinion. Yeah. You know, Ronald Reagan once said that if we ever forget that we are one nation under God, we'll be a nation gone under. And I think our current administration in the White House and in Lansing would be very happy to see that happen. But no, it's very encouraging to see that we do have people who love our country and will stand for it. So thank you so much. God bless you.
Livingston County, followed by Jennifer Lamb.
I had to hold everything because there's no seats. Hi, gentlemen. Thank you for your service. I just wanted to start out with reading some counties that are sanctuary counties: Ingham County, Kalamazoo County, Kent County, Lansing, and Wayne County. But no, not a Second Amendment or a constitutional county. They are a sanctuary county for criminal illegal aliens. So it's the doublespeak that is so frustrating. We've all heard about our Second Amendment right, the right of the people to keep and bear arms. Just wanted to, somebody I think mentioned the Heller case, the District of Columbia versus Heller, concluded that the Second Amendment includes the rights of individuals to bear arms for self-defense. And in 2010, McDonald versus the City of Chicago extended the prior ruling from federal laws to state and local laws. Law enforcement officers are not duty bound to enforce any law that violates rights already protected by the Constitution. Laws come from government. My rights come from God. They are not a subject for interpretation or infringement. There is now such a thing as common sense violation of your rights. Anti-gun laws and restrictions are by nature unconstitutional. If you actually read the text of the Second Amendment and can comprehend what these words mean, this becomes obvious. If you also bother to read the 10th Amendment, it's also obvious the government has no lawful authority to make and enforce such laws. This is our liberty and our safety that our government wants to piss away. If you don't want to own and carry a weapon, then don't. That's your decision. We have absolutely no right to make, others have absolutely no right to make my decisions for me or anyone else. Do we remember during the COVID vaccine thing, the my body, my choice, but it only applied to those who wanted to murder babies, but not those who didn't want to take an experimental gene therapy. We should not be so foolish and gutless to think that one can outsource our protection. If one thinks that someone else will take care of you, they are sadly mistaken. What makes you think you will be able to call 911? What makes you think police will be able to even find you in time to protect you? The common sense reality is when seconds count, police are minutes away. And speaking to a 33-year veteran of law enforcement, he clued me in on the reality that they will only be investigating my murder, not saving my ass. We have a duty to ourselves and by extension to those around us to take the initiative to stop a violent attack, not cringe and cower waiting to be murdered. I feel like if our public schools would go back to teaching civics in high school instead of what has replaced it, such as social studies, SEL, CRT, we wouldn't have the actions of government imposing unconstitutional edicts. We've done a fine job of dumbing down society. So I would just like to say that I really appreciate your stance on the Constitution, upholding your oath, and I really appreciate each and every one of you. Thank you.
Jennifer Lamb, Osceola Township, followed by Michael Hoover.
Thank you, commissioners, for the opportunity to comment on the resolution that you are considering before you. In the resolution, it states the board will not support the infringements or restrictions of law-abiding citizens to keep and bear arms. This includes gun storage and background checks. It would also include red flag laws if the Michigan lawmakers pass this legislation. I would like to raise concerns regarding the resolution before the board. There are no absolute rights. Every right in the Constitution and the Bill of Rights has limits. It's your right to vote, but you must register. It's your right to freedom of speech, but not if the speech is shown to cause clear or present danger. It is your right to practice the religion of your choice or no religion at all, as long as it does not harm the community. The Second Amendment is also not an absolute right. The amendment states a well-regulated militia being necessary to the security of a free state, the state of the people to keep and bear arms shall not be infringed. The word regulated is in the amendment itself. It is constitutional to have regulations and restrictions on guns, just like every right does. The gun storage background check laws and the potential red flag laws are designed to help protect the community by creating common sense gun regulation. People will still be able to own guns. I support the Second Amendment and people's ability to own guns, responsibly own guns. The law does not prevent that. The laws do support responsible gun ownership. Research shows secure storage practices play a vital role in reducing the risk of gun violence. Storing firearms securely protects children and adults. Every year, nearly 350 children under the age of 18 unintentionally shoot themselves or someone else. Firearms are the leading cause of death of children and teen age 1 to 19. Securing storage of firearms prevents unintentional shootings and gun suicides. In addition, when considering incidents of gunfire on school grounds by children under the age of 18, around 80% of the shooters got the guns from their home or the home of a relative or a friend. I have 2 school-age children in Livingston County. I'm very concerned about weapons that are not being stored properly. Children are accessing guns from home, not the black market. It is law-abiding citizens who bought these guns but didn't act responsibly to lock up their weapons. When people do not act responsibly, the government can and should step in to set a standard of behavior. We have seen this with seatbelt laws and no texting and driving laws. When the safety of the community is at risk, especially the lives of children, the government must and should act. The elected officials of the state passed these laws. They ran on common sense gun reform legislation and were elected based on these platforms. The majority of Michiganders support these laws. The laws are for safe storage is not unconstitutional. I support people, again, owning guns. It is your right. I would not infringe on that right. But I'd ask that safe storage is not taking away the right of the gun owners and is protecting the rights and lives of my children. I really encourage you to support common sense gun laws and not support this resolution. I thank you very much for your time and your service and allowing me to present my ideas before you. Thank you so much.
Michael Hoover, Langsburg, Michigan, followed by Larry Parsons.
Good evening, gentlemen. Thank you so much for your patience, your grace, and your diligence in doing what you're doing. My name is Michael Hoover. I'm a candidate for United States Senate. I'm an American representing the Republican Party. I want to share with you first a quote, full stop. I would like to address the previous speaker with all due respect.
No, you're not allowed.
Okay, we'll not address that. Okay.
Talk to me.
Okay, I'm talking to you.
That's it.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
The previous election was not run on gun rights. It was run on eliminating life. The second thing I would like to say is that we know by statistics that most of the guns, the violence that takes place in our inner cities. We have children growing up without fathers in the homes, and that's done by purpose. But most of the violence that's occurring is with guns that haven't gone through the legal process. They're not actually illegal. They're not legal guns. They are illegally bought or paid for or stolen guns in our inner cities. Study after study, we can check it. The Heritage Foundation shows that to be true. Okay, that being said, I would like to read you a quote because I've heard a lot of people trying to understand, where does this come from? Why do we have such manipulation going on in our society today? And if you look at history and you go back to a gentleman named Sigmund Freud, you start to understand the roots of it. Sigmund Freud actually has a nephew. He's a double nephew of Sigmund Freud's, actually. His name is Edward Bernays. And Edward Bernays was the founder of the whole idea of propaganda and being able to control people so that they could control the power in an elite area. So I'll read a quote from Mr. Edward Bernays. The conscious and intelligent manipulation of the organized habits and opinions of the masses is an important element in democratic society. Those who manipulate this unseen mechanism of society constitute an invisible government, which is the true ruling power of our country. That gentleman led us into World War I. That gentleman led us into World War II on the side of Hitler. That gentleman also helped us get into the Iraq War, and now we're into Ukraine. I just wanted to share that because I think it's important for us to understand the root of where things are coming from, and that is the Democrat platform. With that being said, I'd like to share with you a few other comments. Faith, family, and role model. So many of us put our hand on the Bible, and we swear an oath to it. We swear an oath to the Constitution when we do it. So the question is, does that Bible change? It's a standard. It's a standard by which we live by. It's how we govern ourselves in everyday aspects of how we treat others, how we treat our family, how we treat our spouse. And I would ask the question, are any of us perfect? I know I'm not. I think most of us would agree we probably have all sinned. But have we changed the Bible? No, we have not. Nor should we change the Constitution. With regards to family, I have 4 children, I have 8 grandchildren, and a little girl coming in June, number 9. In raising children, I've learned that you have to have standards. Yep. And you don't have the opportunity to necessarily change the standards from one child to the other, knowing full well that those children are different. So we must have a standard by which we live by. Again, we have the Constitution as our standard. Lastly, role model. We are always role models. Our children are watching us. Our grandchildren are watching us. They're watching every move we make, how we say it, what we do, and when we do it. You are now the role model for the state.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Larry Parsons, Heartland, followed by Andrew. It's difficult to read this handwriting, but I believe it's Hohenstein.
Good evening, gentlemen. It is both an honor and a privilege to be here today. Lots of you know me, and you know that I'm a veteran, and I served this country because of my great love for this country. I served after my father, and his father before him. Every soldier that has served has sacrificed in one way or another. Some lost lives, others lost limb in defense of the Constitution, including the Second Amendment, the right to keep and bear arms. But that's not the only constitutional right under assault right now. It's also due process of law, because these red flag laws are ex parte, and meaning you don't have a chance to defend yourself. Somebody is going to take your gun and there's nothing you can do about it. And then it's going to cost you thousands of dollars to get these guns back because you are guilty until proven innocent. I believe it was oh gosh, one of our presidents and I believe it was, oh geez, brain fart. I guess I'm getting old. My 60th birthday is approaching quickly. But it was Abraham Lincoln that said that it is the, that just went right out there, right out that ear over there. Anyways, maybe I'll come back to that thought. But it is our Second Amendment that separates us from all the other countries in this world. And we don't have to be afraid of being invaded by Russia. We don't have to be afraid of being invaded by China, because we all know that they don't stand a chance coming in our shores. What we have to be afraid of are the Democrats that want to abuse their authority as governors or even congresswomen, like our own Congresswoman Alyssa Slotkin, for example, that is, well, let's just say that she's selling us a load of crap. That's a polite way to put it. She is falsely quoting studies that say that gun violence is the #1 killer of children in the United States of America. But what she's not telling any of us is that includes people from 18 years old to 19 years old, 363 days old. And it's mainly the numbers when they fall in are like MS-13. And that's the only way they can do it, is by falsifying the report and then lying to you about it. If you take the time to read the reports that liberal Alyssa Slotkin quotes, it tells you right in there. But she proudly goes around, just like she says that she served 3 tours when she was never in the military. You know, then we got these tyrants in Lansing that think they have some sort of mandate to violate the Constitution. Time's almost up. All right, gentlemen. You guys have a good evening, and thank you. Please vote yes.
Andrew Hohenstein, Brighton, Michigan, followed by Brooke Chapel.
Hello, gentlemen. My name is Andrew Hounstein. Been a resident of Brighton for 10 years. I want to start off with I'm a staunch constitutionalist that holds true to the truths of in our founding documents. The Declaration of Independence quotes, "The laws of nature and of nature's God." That's a reference to the first law of nature, which is a right to defend yourself. And nobody's ever seen an animal not defend itself in the wild. I'd like to read a couple commentaries from our founding fathers. First one's from Samuel Adams. It reads, "Among the natural rights of the colonists are these: first, a right to life; secondly, to liberty; thirdly, to property, together with the right to support and defend them in the best manner they can." Patrick Henry says, "Guard with jealous attention the public liberty; suspect everyone who approaches that jewel. Unfortunately, nothing will preserve it but downright force. Whenever you give up that force, you are inevitably ruined." Thomas Jefferson says, and what country can preserve its liberties if its rulers are not warned from time to time that this people preserve the spirit of resistance? Let them take arms." George Mason, the father of the Bill of Rights, says, 40 years ago, when the resolution of enslaving America was formed in Great Britain, the British Parliament was advised to disarm the people. That is the best way and most effectual way to enslave them, but that they should not do it openly, but to weaken them and let them sink gradually. He also said, "I consider and fear the natural propensity of rulers to oppress the people. I wish only to preserve them, but I wish only to prevent them from doing evil. Divine providence has given to every individual the means of self-defense." Noah Webster says, "Before a standing army can rule, the people must be disarmed, as they are in every kingdom in Europe. The supreme power in America cannot enforce unjust laws by the sword because the whole body of the people are armed." Every county should be passing these resolutions because you can't legislate away wickedness in a man's heart. Only Jesus Christ can fix that. Every county needs their sheriff and elected officials to know their authority to stop these abusive overreaches. You guys have so much power. You really do. And the sheriff, a constitutional sheriff, so much power. And the Supreme Court ruled in 1803 in Marbury versus Madison that all laws that are repugnant to the Constitution are null and void. I wonder how many laws out there are standing right now that haven't been ripped out of the books yet because nobody went after them. And you're going after one right now. So I applaud you for that. And if we don't start standing up for what is right and true, there will be no country left to hand down to our future generations. And this is a perfect example. Please be courageous, stand firm and follow the Constitution and confirm these resolutions and protecting our inalienable rights. As your constituent, I stand firm behind you, and I would like to see our county to be a light of change for other counties to follow. May God give you, our officials and our sheriff, wisdom and discernment with the same veracity that he gave our founders. May he protect you. Thank you.
Brooke Chapel, Tyrone Township, followed by Jim Huff.
Hello, everyone. My name is Brooke Chapel, and many of you know me in this county for all the work I do in the schools. Tonight, I'm coming here and I'm wearing a different hat. I want to thank you so much for everything that you're doing. And really, truly, the reason I came is to watch history in the making, because that's what this is tonight. That's this opportunity. So thank you, because we need some support. We know that the bad guys don't follow the laws. We've heard tonight from various people that have shared some stories that are disturbing. We should be able to protect ourselves. So let's be clear. Let's make that happen. And thank you. Thank you again. Thank you, Sheriff Murphy. And that's it. God bless you.
Jim Huff Howell, followed by Gail Morgenthaler.
Hi, Jim Huff. One thing I like to say is there's no such thing as car accidents. There's no such thing as gun violence. Inanimate objects. It's negligence. I have until we can realize that, we're not going to fix the problem. If all we do is go after gun violence instead of the real problems, it's not going to get fixed. I have a daughter, a granddaughter at MSU where the shooting took place. And I have a grandson that goes to Oxford, same age as the shooter, went all through classes with him. And why the principal didn't check that kid's backpack is beyond me. The kid getting the gun was wrong, taking it to school, but the principal not checking the backpack is just beyond belief. I don't get it. Could have been stopped. We didn't really need a red flag law. We needed a good principal. And now the principal there, if I have my facts correct, my granddaughter going there has been getting bullied and has issues. And my daughter, in trying to work with the principal, well, I thought there was no tolerance against bullying, but I guess there is. Because the principal's answer to my daughter was, here's the hotline number for suicide. Instead of going, the left wing is going after victims, not the criminals. And the problem just isn't going to get fixed by some red flag law or safe storage. We
already have in each pistol you buy a Youth Handgun Safety Act. There's already laws on storing your guns. I guess that's it. Thank you.
Gail from Pinckney, followed by Jane Locke.
Gay Morgan Thaler with a small house, little house in Pinckney and a primary residence in Chelsea. I would to God it was the other way around. Gentlemen, I thank you so much for your patience in listening to all of us. And I would ask, have any of you ever been shot at? I realize you don't answer questions, but think in the back of your mind, have you ever had a gun aimed at you and been shot at? 31 years ago, in the cute little town, seaside town of La Jolla, California, I was shot at. I helped the police put that man in jail for 5 years. A man who shot another woman in the head the prior night, coming out of a charming little restaurant in the very chichi recherche little town of La Jolla. I'm the daughter of a retired major. My uncle was a retired major, World War II. My grandfathers were both in World War I. I cannot thank you enough for making their sacrifices worthwhile. I was lucky beyond belief that I wasn't killed that night, nor anyone who stood to help me. And my final question, actually my final comment is, please, 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 don't let Livingston County become Washtenaw County.
The last card that I have is Jane Locke, Genoa Township.
Good evening, gentlemen. I think we've met before. Well, aside from Commissioner Delmas, I'm probably the oldest person in this room, believe it or not. I just turned 70 this last January. And I'm a Vietnam era veteran. And I graduated high school, and one of the first things I did after partying for the summer was to join the U.S. Air Force and dedicated my life to protecting everyone in this room by literally giving my oath, which was backed up by a blank check payable with my life, to uphold the Constitution against all enemies, foreign and domestic. And we have an innumerable number of domestic enemies right now. Most people don't realize it, but I've had the honor to be the armed protection for several of our local elected officials, as well as some musical rock and roll stars. And my favorite of all is my dear friend, Catherine Henry, who is a constitutional attorney. And I've traveled thousands of miles across the state to be by her side to protect her because of the innumerable death threats that have come her way. And as a result of that, when she won against Gretchen Whitmer with the unconstitutional mandates, just my mere association with Catherine resulted in me getting innumerable death threats. And what I'm asking you to do is to stand your guns. Don't divert your focus. Protect me to keep me from becoming a felon for simply protecting myself. And there will never be a day when I'm going to convert my sidearm into a paperweight by rendering it inactive and unable to protect me and my loved ones with this ridiculous thing they call safe storage. Safe storage is when I have it on my hip. And that's where it's going to be. And safe storage is also when it's within reach inside of my home in the unlikely event that somebody's knocked my door down and try to cause harm to me and my family. So with that, I want you to protect me, to keep me from becoming a felon by these ridiculous unconstitutional laws. Thank you.
Commissioner Rick, I have been advised there is one person in the lower overflow room who would like to speak at the call to the public, and they can do that from downstairs according to IT. So I think they're getting her set at this time in the Zoom overflow.
Hi, my name is Janice Daniels. I'm the former mayor of Troy. I want to ask that each of you vote yes on this resolution, even though if you think of the real wording of the Second Amendment, it shouldn't be necessary. The Second Amendment has some commas in it. A well-regulated militia shall not be infringed. So you guys who want to join the National Guard, you have to be well-regulated. For the preservation of a free state, I'm not sure the words are right, but the free state shall not be infringed. So we all have the right to a free state. The right of the people to keep and bear arms shall not be infringed. That's as simple as it can be. Alexander Hamilton once said that he wasn't sure that we needed a Bill of Rights because it would give the usurpers of authority the ability to regulate those rights, and that's exactly what has happened. So although I encourage you to vote yes, I think that the Second Amendment stands on its own. There should be no laws infringing upon the right to keep and bear arms. A gentleman mentioned a lawsuit that I wanted to bring up, and that is Norton versus Shelby County. That's Tennessee. That was decided in 1886 in a unanimous 9-0 decision at the Supreme Court level. He mentioned that one of the important points of that is that an unconstitutional act is not a law. It also goes on to say that there's no immunity for any public functionary who does not act in accordance with the constitutional rule of law or within your properly delineated limited authorities. You can be held monetarily liable for acts of commission or omission, and you can be removed from office if or when you violate your oath of office. Another lawsuit that I would like you to consider looking at is called Pacific State Telephone and Telegraph Company versus Oregon, and that was decided on February 19th, 1912. Now, this case actually was dismissed by the Supreme Court of Oregon because the court recognized that the enforcement of the provision of Article 4, Section 4 of the United States Constitution that says that every state is guaranteed a Republican form of government was not an issue to be brought before the courts. It's an issue that must be committed to the legislative department of governments, federal, state, and local. They went on to say that the initiative and the referendum altered this form of government and that it no longer becomes a Republican form of government. So the proposal 3, even if the majority of the people said it was okay to murder children, unborn children, that is not constitutional. We cannot murder our children, even if the majority of people say that we should. The test of constitutionality of a statute is not what has been done, but by what authority it has been done. No body of government has the authority to infringe upon the people's God-given rights to self-defense. We've heard it before. Any law or statute that violates that fundamental right is democratic in form, not Republican, and it's repugnant to the Constitution. The power of the majority of people to impose upon a state a democratic form of government or to adopt institutions violating the Republican form of government is one of the powers which was not intended to be exercised by anyone, but to be wholly annihilated. Those are words directly from the case Pacific States Telephone and Telegraph Company versus Oregon. I would encourage you all to read it after you vote yes on this resolution. Thank you.
I believe you are ready to go to Zoom. Is Krista going to call them?
I can call them, yes.
Okay, thank you.
Ladies and
First,
gentlemen,
go ahead. I'm sorry, Commissioner.
excuse me. I'm going to exercise my right to give a 7-minute recess, and then we'll come back and we'll start with the entire Zoom audience. So recess.
Ladies and gentlemen, we'll resume this evening's meeting. If you'll please sit down. Thank you, Commissioner. Okay.
Madam Clerk, let's go to Zoom and see who we have. You
Okay.
call them out.
Krista will be calling them for you, Miss Commissioner Drick.
Okay, thank you.
First up, Commissioner, I have Lori Cowan.
Thank you. Ms. Collins?
Hi. Thank you. I'm Lori Cowan. I'm a Unadilla Township trustee. I first wanted to address the Homeland Security Grant that pathetically did not make it out of committee last week. This grant has been accepted by the Board of Commissioners for almost 20 years. The funding helps support this entire community, fire, police, 911, basically all facets of our first responder agencies. In fact, our wonderful Unadilla Police Department directly benefited by receiving 3 much needed radios and a computer. The county sheriff received tactical rescue equipment. Putnam Fire received air purifying systems, and extensive training programs were made possible, like hazardous material training and urban search and rescue, and so much more. Don't believe the falsehoods and the conspiracy theories that were stated at last week's call to the public. This grant only has and only will continue to help protect the citizens of Livingston County. In addition, I won't repeat what I said last week concerning my opposition to making Livingston County a constitutional county, but I will say ignore the crazy propaganda. Your Second Amendment rights are not being taken away. And I reiterate for you to please vote no on this resolution and prove that you support life over a gun. Thank you.
Thank you.
Next, I have Judy Daubenmeier.
Ms.
Good
Daubenmeier, you've
evening.
got 5 minutes.
Thank you. Good evening. I'm not going to repeat everything that all of our opponents to this legislation said last week, but I want to reiterate that Livingston County Democrats condemn this resolution as phony, irresponsible, and unconstitutional as an attempt to make us exempt from the checks and balances in our federal constitution. People think this is just about gun safety legislation, but it is not. It can be used in the future by MAGA groups to bully the county into ignoring many other laws if they can find a conspiracy theory that makes them afraid of it. This county has no authority to declare a law unconstitutional. That's clear from the 30 or so speakers tonight who quoted U.S. Supreme Court decisions in support of their position. If it's the county that interprets laws, why are they supporting the U.S. Supreme Court's decisions on gun legislation? The county has no discretion to ignore court orders to enforce laws such as extreme risk protection orders after a valid court order has been issued. In fact, if the sheriff refuses to enforce a valid court order, he can face fines and up to 93 days in jail. The county is exposing the taxpayers to potential legal and financial lawsuits, liability for selective prosecution. If it chooses to enforce some laws and ignore others, it can be sued and the taxpayers will be on the hook. As Attorney General Dana Nessel has pointed out, this resolution doesn't mean extreme risk protection orders will go unenforced in our county. The state police can enforce the court orders, as can special agents within the Michigan Attorney General's office. But that puts an extra burden on family members trying to keep guns out of the hands of a mentally ill relative who is threatening suicide. This resolution will only make Livingston County families more vulnerable. It will also leave the public wondering what laws in the future are going to be tossed by the wayside because the MAGA crowd has latched on to yet another conspiracy theory, like the group that advertised a meeting to take over the county commission boardroom tonight at 5 o'clock without authority, because they believe the WHO is going to take over the United States. What's next? Please don't take this step. You're just going to make yourself more vulnerable to future bullying by the MAGA crowd. Thank you.
Next, I have Janine.
Yes, Janine Ayer, Genoa Township, in favor of the resolution affirming the Second Amendment. Well, I just want to thank you commissioners for considering this resolution, and I thank and applaud Sheriff Murphy for his stand for the Constitution and the Second Amendment. Basically, legislators in Lansing pushing red flag gun laws and other gun restriction legislation have violated their oath to the U.S. and Michigan Constitution and have ignored recent legal history on gun restriction laws. And I commend you for recognizing that and considering this resolution. For instance, in December 2022, the New York Supreme Court ruled that New York's red flag gun laws do not sufficiently protect citizens' due process rights under the Fourth Amendment, as well as it infringed on citizens' rights to keep and bear arms. Also, in a May 2021 SCOTUS case, Castiglia versus Strom, Justice Alito opined that the red flag gun laws may be challenged under the Fourth Amendment. And other later cases, there have been people that have commented on that. Specifically, I want to bring up the storage law 2008 case before the Supreme Court, District of Columbia versus Heller, which basically ruled that citizens have a right to defend themselves within the home, and that the District of Columbia's handgun ban and requirement that lawfully owned rifles and shotguns be kept, quote, unloaded and disassembled or bound by trigger lock, end quote, violated the Second Amendment rights of citizens. So thus recent legal history has upheld our constitutional rights, and I just would encourage you, commissioners, to do the same. I just want to comment too that if you look into facts and figures, the vast majority of crime involving firearms are not committed by lawful gun owners, but by repeat criminals. And the firearms used by these criminals are statistically most often obtained illegally. The fact is that violating the Second Amendment rights of law-abiding citizens to keep and bear arms isn't the answer to curtailing gun violence. What needs to happen is to keep violent criminals off the streets and to deal with the mental illness crisis of young offenders. And I have 10 seconds left. So commissioners, thank you for your service, and God bless you, and have a good evening.
Next, I have Ron Cardos.
Sir, can you hear us? Ron Cardos, was it?
Yes. Ron, you should be able to unmute yourself. Well, do you want to go to the next one, Commissioner?
And then call again after, okay?
Yes, sir.
Okay,
He just came
I'm
unmuted.
unmuted. Okay, thank you. Sorry, I assumed that I would be remotely unmuted. Yes, my name is Ron Cardis, and I am from Osceola Township. Good evening, commissioners. Thank you for providing an opportunity to voice my opinion regarding Livingston County becoming a constitutional county. I'm a lifelong resident of Livingston County. There are two brief comments I'd like to make regarding a recent CBS discussion between one of our county commissioners and an attorney regarding the above mentioned issue. Our county commissioner suggested that there are other laws that will deal with those who are showing symptoms of violent tendencies. This has not proven to be an effective approach to prevent gun deaths. On the other hand, the attorney put the whole issue into context by saying that a sheriff does not have the discretion to decide what is and what is not constitutional. These are just two of the comments that were made during this enlightening interview. Therefore, I hope that this whole body chooses not to vote in favor of this resolution. Thank you.
Thank you.
Next, I have Cindy M.
Hi, Commissioners. Cindy McNavich, Hamburg Township. I'm also a Hamburg Township trustee. I sent you all an email a few days ago, and I don't know if you've had the time to read it. So I'll read a little bit about what I wrote, a little bit about it. The majority of the residents of the county live in a municipality that has a local police department. And those that don't, the Michigan State Police will be liable to enforce these new gun safety laws, even if the sheriff decides not to. So does declaring a Livingston County a constitutional county in a resolution really mean anything? I don't think so. These laws will still be enforced. Leaders should prioritize the safety and well-being of the residents in the county. I work hard to listen to all the residents in my township and vote with everyone in mind. I certainly hope that nobody is harmed by not enforcing these laws, because I think this resolution could clearly set the county up for a lawsuit. Let's work in community and govern, not divide. Please vote no.
Am I on?
Yes, please.
Okay. Hi, Commissioners. Thank you for giving us the opportunity to speak. We know that your time is just as precious, but I just really want to thank you for standing up against tyranny. I know this is just a resolution to state where we stand, and I appreciate all the comments that have been told tonight. I want to make a response. I am not a MAGA. I am a God-fearing American citizen who believes in our Constitution. And I thank you for standing up for our
Ladies and
Constitution.
gentlemen, don't interrupt speakers, please. Thank you. Ma'am, you still have some more time.
Okay, so I just want to say thank you. I pray over you. I just really appreciate listening to the majority of your constituents. And I just pray for your protection also. Thank you.
Trista, next.
Next, we have Colleen and Tim Quinn.
Thank you.
Hello, thank you. So this is Colleen and Tim, and we're out of town. We want to save everyone's time, so we're just going to combine our comments. So if anyone's keeping score, consider this as two constituents in favor of resolution 2023-04-063, which enshrines Livingston County as a constitutional county and a 2A sanctuary county. We sent all of the commissioners an email last week thanking you for your leadership on this issue and for protecting the citizens of Livingston County from unjust and unconstitutional laws. The Constitution is clear. The right to bear arms shall not be infringed. Recent laws are infringements. We know that any law repugnant to the Constitution is null and void. To ban guns or put restrictions because of others' criminal or unhinged behavior is to tell law-abiding citizens that their rights and liberties depend not on their own conduct, but on the conduct of the guilty and the lawless. We also want to thank Sheriff Murphy for his comments and his leadership. Thank you for your time. Please vote for these resolutions. We are so sick of seeing our Constitution eroded, and we applaud you. Thank you.
Next, we have Paul Richardson.
Zoom meeting.
I was interested last week when one of the commissioners remarked that he'd never seen a gun hold a grudge, or never known a gun to hold a grudge. And I thought, I've never known a nuclear bomb to hold a grudge either. But do you want everyone to have one? When we got started this evening, Commissioner Drick cautioned us that we need to be careful about what we say. We could be prosecuted for slander should we say something to the commissioners that they found offensive. And then I have 2 hours of people standing up about saying that their right to bear arms is to ensure that they can fight against a tyrannical government. Now I just heard somebody support the commissioners in standing up against the government in Lansing. So do we have government standing up against government? Okay, I'm not sure. I'm confused, but I know this. If for the people, the three-cornered hat historians that I've heard this evening, how many of you know that the Bill of Rights was never intended to apply to the states? Follow along on your phones, please. In 1833, John Marshall in Barron versus Baltimore ruled that the Fifth Amendment did not apply to the state of Maryland, city of Baltimore, against John Barron. John Barron sued for eminent domain, violation of eminent domain. It was upheld in 1876 in the first case that examined the Second Amendment, the First and Second Amendment, United States versus Cruikshank, that's C-R-U-I-K, Shank, in which Chief Justice Morrison R. Waite, no liberal, wrote these words: the First and Second Amendments do not apply to the states. The right to bear arms is not guaranteed by the Constitution, nor is it dependent upon that instrument for its existence. The Second Amendment means no more that it shall not be infringed by Congress and has no other effect than to restrict the powers of the national government. So if you have a right to bear arms, if you do, where do you get it? Aha, you get it from your state legislature, and the state legislatures have the power to regulate. Look at the Second Amendment again. I know people have taken a stab at the words. A well-regulated militia, comma, being necessary to the security of a free state is the primary condition, the primary clause, comma, the next two clauses are a compound predicate. The right of the people to keep and bear arms, comma, shall not be infringed. The primary issue is the security of a free state, because a state is one of the four primary political powers, the other three being the three branches of the federal government. It is the states that may regulate. The states is where you get your powers. And in the 10th Amendment refers precisely to those powers. Please look at your 10th Amendment. Powers, right? Okay, look at 10th Amendment. And in the 9th Amendment, rights that are not enumerated shall not be disparaged or denied, are retained by the people through the power of their state legislatures. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Krista?
Next, we have Stacy.
Hi, I just wanted to thank the commissioners and Sheriff Murphy for standing up for our rights and taking their oath of office seriously to defend the Constitution, and for listening to the people of Livingston County. I do support this resolution, and I encourage a yes vote. Thank you, and may God bless you.
Next, I have Leo Hannafin.
Yes, that's my name. I'm from Livingston, from Brighton Township. I'd like to offer a few other perspectives from what I've heard so far. First of all, there was a sense that we need these weapons to defend against those evil people from the inner city who get their guns illegally, and they're going to come and break into our house and kill us. Well, if you look at data from 1966 to today, 77% of the mass shooters obtain their weapons legally in this country. That's from the U.S. Justice Department, not from the Heritage Foundation, but from from a government agency that is charged to serve us. In fact, if you look at where we're at with gun possession today, we have twice as many guns per person than any other country in the world. We have twice as much gun violence, gun deaths than any country in the world. That's per capita, both of those. Twice as many guns, twice as many deaths. And it's not just people shooting each other. We represent 4% of the world's population, but 44% of the gun suicides in the world. Let's put this into the perspective that many people want to frame this tonight, and that is the perspective of what we believe in. We believe in God. That was mentioned many times, that we have a God-given right to carry weapons. Well, most of us are Christians, and Christ calls upon us to do other things besides defend ourselves. He says, you must love each other. You must love all your neighbors. And when asked who his neighbor was, he gave the example of Samaritan. Samaritans by the Jews, and Jesus was a Jew at that time, and Samaritans were half-breed heretics. They were despised by other people. So basically, we should learn how to love one another, not how to kill one another, not how to defend our rights to have weapons. If we really want to be in God we trust, a nation that is God-fearing and unified, we should stop the nonsense of resolutions that divide and come together as a people and learn how to love one another and not spend our times shouting at each other with wild accusations and theories about this tyranny in Lansing or in Washington. Let us come together and follow what Christ has called us to do if we really want to be Christians in a God-fearing country. Thank you.
Krista.
Next, I have Jared Alamet.
Yeah, thank you very much. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Great. Thank you, commissioners. I want to start by saying we must be on guard. When asked by a patron whether the Constitution is providing a monarchy or democracy, Benjamin Franklin replied, "A republic if you can keep it." And part of maintaining a republic is protecting us from fascists who want to take the power, which is meant to be with the people. It's not meant to be with the federal government. It's not meant to be with the states. It's meant to be with the people. And you see that everywhere in this administration and with our governor. You give them an inch, they take a mile. You see it with the COVID lockdowns and emergency orders, an excuse to take our rights. You see it in the schools where teachers' unions, administrations, and even the attorney general want to cut parents out of education and teach kids they're either oppressed or oppressors based on the color of their skin, which is by definition racist. You see it with the weaponization of the judicial system. You see it with Proposal 3, where the rights have been taken from parents to provide consent before their children's genitalia are mutilated and many other atrocities. And you see it with this administration's attack on our gun rights. At no time in history have we seen our rights under such attack. And I hate to say this, and I hope it never comes to this, but you know what? Part of, and the gentleman referred to it negatively, but it's right in the Constitution. Part of the reason why we have guns is to protect ourselves against a tyrannical government, which I hope it never comes to, but that is our right. I spoke last week and shared my experiences living in Brazil, where only criminals have guns and where my friends were dragged from their homes at gunpoint because they had no way to defend themselves. I lived overseas for 10 years. I spent significant time in Brazil, Venezuela, Colombia, and I've seen firsthand what tyranny looks like. In all instances, the citizens are unarmed and the criminals are not. It's not law-abiding citizens, and I'll throw the government in those countries in with the criminals. It's not law-abiding citizens that commit crimes, it's criminals. My father's from Jordan, and my family witnessed my uncle, an unarmed citizen, gunned down in his town by criminals. My wife is from Lithuania. She experienced the freedom from the Soviet Union. She watched tanks run over unarmed citizens in protest. That is what tyranny looks like. Red flag laws will allow radical left extremists to raise unfounded complaints and confiscate guns, period. I sat here and listened to fellow citizens degrading people with a different point of view as conspiracy theorists. So let me return the favor. Anyone with half a brain or some world, dare I say, diverse experience can easily see this. These liberals are self-nominated Mensas and have never been out of their little bubble for more than a couple of weeks or a cruise, and don't understand or appreciate the liberties we have in this country and how precious and special that is. They're too busy sipping lattes and watching The View to see what's right in front of their eyes. The stealing of our freedom. Please protect our freedoms while we still have them and vote yes on this resolution. Thank you.
Next, I have Cindy Holland.
Hello, thank you for allowing my time to speak here this evening. I would ask that you please do pass this resolution to protect the Second Amendment rights of Livingston County citizens. It's a shame if we couldn't do it for the whole state. I want to remind you about not just the US Constitution that cements our Second Amendment rights, but also the state constitution, which cements our Second Amendment rights. Article 1, Section 6. The Constitution of the state of Michigan provides that every person has the right to keep and bear arms in defense of himself and the state. I also want to add, I have a friend in that lives in Australia who says to me, Cindy, you need to tell your fellow American citizens to fight for their Second Amendment rights, because now that we don't have our Second Amendment rights, our government is forcing us to take a vaccine that has not been proven to be safe. And now we know that those vaccines have been creating adverse reactions for millions and millions of people. So I just ask that you do pass this resolution and protect our Second Amendment rights. Thank you so much. Have a blessed evening.
Next, we have Michelle.
Thank you. Michelle, can you hear us?
Hi, Commissioners, Michelle Blondale. Thank you so much for allowing us to speak and provide you with our guidance. You understand your oath. And I want to say thank you to those of you who are going to vote yes for this resolution. I want to thank you from the bottom of my heart, for my family, and for future generations. You will be standing up for what's right. You are going to help us claw back what we have been losing over the last several decades, which is our God-given rights. And I just want to say thank you and be brave. Now is your time to shine and inspire others to do the same. So thank you again, and God bless.
Next, we have Jennifer Bedford.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. Just briefly, I wanted to say thank you to the commissioners for bringing this resolution up and voting on it. I hope that you all see it in your heart to vote unanimously. And I just feel blessed to be represented by such a brave and smart group of people. And thank you for me, for my family, and for our county. That's it.
Next, we have Tanya DeFever.
Hello, good evening. I would like to ask the commissioners to please vote no on this resolution. I'm going to read a brief quote like most rights, the right secured by the Second Amendment is not unlimited. It is not a right to keep and carry any weapon whatsoever in any manner whatsoever and for whatever purpose. That quote is from Justice Scalia in the District of Columbia versus Heller from 2008. Thank you and have a good night.
Commissioners, we do not have any more and call the public.
Shouldn't she be able to finish her comments?
Yeah.
She finished them. I don't know where you guys got cut off at. So would you like her to repeat her comments or?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. Tanya, the commissioners need you to repeat what you said. They got dropped at the end of what you were talking.
Okay, thank you. Good evening, commissioners. I implore you to vote no on this proposal. Okay, I forgot what it's called, sorry. I'd like to read a quick quote. It says, like most rights, the right secured by the Second Amendment is not unlimited. It is not a right to keep and carry any weapon whatsoever in any manner whatsoever and for whatever purpose. That quote is by Justice Scalia in the District of Columbia versus Heller from 2008. Thank you for listening. Have a good evening.
Thank you. Chris, did you see any more hands raised on Zoom?
No, Commissioner, I do not.
I'm hearing none. In that case, the call to the public is ended. Commissioner?
Oh, there we go. Okay. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much for your patience and your professionalism. Your support of the Second Amendment and the First Amendment is duly noted. We're going to continue here with a couple of other items on the agenda. And we'll start with the approval of minutes, item number 9. The Chair will entertain a motion to approve the minutes of the meeting dated April 11th, both closed session and open session.
So move Gross, support Smith.
Been moved and supported. Are there any questions or comments? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Item 10 is tabled items from previous meetings, and there is nothing for us to deal with there. We'll move on to item 11, which is reports. Do any of the commissioners have reports this evening? I think this hand went up first. Commissioner Nakagiri?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I just wanted to inform my colleagues, I met this afternoon with Heartland Township, the township supervisor, the township manager, and their DPW director. It was myself and Frank Irvin from our county septic receiving station. Our intent is to come up with an agreement before the clock runs out and it could end up in litigation. I will report to you that it was a very constructive meeting. We met for a couple hours. I believe we have kind of a framework. We got to do a little bit more hammering out, but the path forward is to have the Board of Public Works in their meeting on the first Thursday of the month to approve this and then forward it to the full board. So I'm very hopeful that we can come up with a solution that avoids litigation. If you have any questions, be happy to answer them. Thank you.
Are there any questions or comments? Thank you, Commissioner. Did I see a hand down here?
Yes.
Yes, sir.
Today, I went to the Michigan Association of Counties. This is the 125th anniversary of that organization, and I think it was probably one of the first organizations that became lobbyists at the state. Anyways, the session that I went to talked about the funding of courts. And in fact, it's probably not known by most people in the public and maybe most of us around this table that there's a sunset. The laws that provide funding for the courts will sunset in a year. And so all of that is, there's going to be a lot of things that have to be done. And there may be big changes in funding. The speaker is advocating for the state to fund so that all courts across the state have equal funding. They also talked about something dear to Wes's heart is caseload, and there's two terms, caseload and I can't remember the other term, what case weight, yeah. And he advocated for a statewide metric that can be applied to all courts across the state that would say how many cases a court has, what are the weight of the courts, and that the courts be paid according to that. And so that, anyways, it was very interesting. The funding of the courts may be more important than, or just as important as the subject we're talking about. We want the courts to be able to be funded, but we want them to be just also. So, because the courts are the ones that are going to decide a lot of these things, and we'd rather them be with the Constitution. So,
Thank you, Commissioner. Any other reports? Any other reports here? And we'll move on to the next item on the agenda. Let's see. Yep. Yes, it is. The next item on the agenda is our first resolution for consideration. Following that resolution, there are, I think, at least a dozen more. And you may not want to hang around for those. You can if you want, but you might fall asleep during some of them. They're pretty boring. But we'll get on with this resolution as item number 12. It is resolution 2023-04-063. The resolution by the Livingston County Board of Commissioners in support of the Second Amendment of the United States Constitution and the Michigan Constitution. May the board will, the chair will accept a motion to.
so moved, Sample. Support,
Moved by-
Helserman.
I'm sorry, moved by Commissioner Sample, and who else was that? Okay. Are there any comments or questions? Madam Chair, I'm sorry, Martin Smith, Commissioner Smith.
I want to make a comment in that, one, I greatly appreciate the outpouring of emotion, of patriotism. I think those that spoke in public against this resolution were quite brave considering their surroundings. I've struggled mightily with this resolution. But in the end, when you
actually read what they're proposing in the red flag law. It is a certain impunity of our rights. And the presumption that we could halt a mass shooting is obviously a virtuous intention. But these are the good intentions that become bricks. And these bricks pave a road that leads to tyranny. So I'm voting in favor of this resolution.
Thank you, Commissioner Smith. Any other comments? Commissioner Nakagiri.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I just wanted to elaborate on a few points that I think are important in the debate and the discussion about this issue. Attorney General Dana Nessel, who I have very little in agreement with, has said, was quoted in the Livingston Daily on April 18th, 2023, as saying, or talking about the sheriff does have discretion, and as does the prosecutor. So here's an opportunity for me to say I do agree with somebody that's a Democrat, because I do agree that the sheriff and the prosecutor have discretion on which laws they're going to enforce. So for those who oppose this resolution saying we don't have the ability to do this, you're absolutely wrong. The Board of Commissioners also has discretion. It was not spoken about in the article, but we have discretion. If the, this is not going to happen, but if the sheriff or the prosecutor said, hey, I need an extra $500,000 to, enforce these red flags law, the Board of Commissioners has the discretion to say, no, we're not going to fund it. So I want to mention that because I think it's educational for folks to understand what is the latitude of their elected officials. I also want to point out that Attorney General Nessel, back on in an article by Bridge, Michigan in 2022, said she wouldn't enforce the abortion laws that were on the books at the time. So when my colleagues across the aisle say you can't do this, you've got to enforce the law. Well, no, I agree with Dana Nessel. We have discretion on which laws are enforced and which are not. I also want to mention, because it meshes into the debate and discussion, the mass shooting at Michigan State University, where a prosecutor over in Ingham County used her discretion to reduce a felony charge to a misdemeanor charge, thereby allowing the Michigan State shooter to acquire a weapon. So the prosecutor in Ingham County, the Democrat prosecutor in Ingham County, used her discretion poorly. And that's not going to happen here in Livingston County. So your elected folks do have discretion. Those who think not, I'll just say they're wrong. The last thing I want to mention, a couple of specifics on the resolution that are really onerous. Well, the whole thing is onerous, but to get your guns taken away by this red flag law, you only need a preponderance of the evidence. So a preponderance of the evidence is 50% plus whatever, just a little bit over 50%. And that is, in my view, a low threshold to lose your Second Amendment rights. Another very onerous part of this legislation, red flag legislation, is that a citizen that's filing charges trying to take away somebody's guns can file in any county, not just Livingston County. So if you were intent on, taking away someone's firearms, I'd go file in Washtenaw County, where they would likely have judges that would support that loss of Second Amendment, or Wayne County. So there's some very onerous things. And for that reason, I'll be voting in support of this resolution. In fact, I would tell everybody, I'm going to vote. I was here in 2020 when we passed the first one. I am going to vote the exact same way. I'm going to vote hell yes.
Thank you, Commissioner. Are there any other commissioners that would like to weigh in here? All right. Commissioner Drick?
Thank you, Commissioner. As SIPSID Chair, I took notes, copious notes of what the public said last week, last meeting, April 11, and tonight. And I heard this resolution allegedly was beyond our authority, not found in the Constitution, is made up, is fictional, is phony, is unlawful or does not follow the law, is not proper, is some kind of secession from the state of Michigan or splitting from the state of Michigan, or it's based on QAnon or Proud Boys. These allegations are 100% wrong. 1215, read the Magna Carta. Read the Petition of Right, 1628. Read the Bill of Rights of England, 1689. Read the first sentence of the United States Bill of Rights, 1791. Read the third sentence in the Michigan Constitution of 1969. There's an 800-year history that precedes this resolution. It is within our authority. It is in our Constitution. It's not made up. It's not fictional, not phony. It is proper. We're not seceding. It is not based on QAnon or the Proud Boys, because this Board of Commission, as all citizens, have the ancient and current right to petition their government for the redress of grievances.
Thank you, Commissioner.
The allegation that this,
On the other hand,
the allegation this resolution somehow declares something unconstitutional is not in the text, or it interprets the Constitution is not in the text, or that this is some kind of unconstitutional effort. All of that's wrong. Everybody. That's why we even have call to the public, because you're allowed to petition your government for redress of grievances. When you look at the last therefore, we respectfully ask for a change. And in this last paragraph, we tell every government authority we can think of, from the United States Senate down to all of our directors of our committees, our departments in the county. We're petitioning for redress of grievances. All the rest, not right. Thank you.
Commissioner. I want to address a few things. First of all, the rights of humanity. Everyone in the whole world, with or without a constitution, has the right to their life. Every person in the world has the right to protect their life without the Constitution. Do you need the Constitution to protect your right to live? I don't think so. It is only that in our country, we have told the government that our right to our life and the right to protect our life, we have put it in writing so that not our neighbors won't come to us, so the government will not take our life or take our freedom. That has to be part of it. Part of this I've read every email, I've responded to some. And I see a common thread, and it's a common thread, and this is, I think, what most of us on the conservative side do not understand, that we're fighting a verbal war. It's a spiritual war, but it's a verbal war. Take, for example, the word abortion, and this is on a whole different subject, but take the word abortion. Does the word abortion indicate humanity? Does it indicate motherhood? Does it indicate death? So we're using, our opponents are using a false word. And when we say the word abortion, we should always say abortion of a mother. There's death every time we say the word abortion, because the word abortion doesn't do it. And the same thing with this thing. Okay, we talk about gun violence. That's a false word, because the gun is only the tool. There's no such thing as gun violence. The second thing is common sense laws. Okay, that's also false. Isn't it common sense that we know that these problems happen in gun-free zones? That's common sense. But we persist on insisting on gun-free zones. What is common sense? Okay, when we look at what was before and what has been done by the Michigan legislature, there is no common sense about what has been done, because the common sense would say, how would this work in Chicago? Would this save one life in Chicago? Because they probably have these laws already in Chicago. What's it doing there? If it's not working in Chicago, it's not going to work here. So we have every right to resist this. And in my mind, what this does, okay, so this right is a big, broad right, but all of these things make the right a little smaller, a little smaller, a little, yes, you have the right to keep your gun, but you have the right to keep your, and every time they say the word but, the constitutional right, or the right given to us because we're alive, because we're human by God, that right is getting smaller and smaller. Okay, we say you can't, the right to free speech is limited, yes. You can't speak fire in a theater, but you can't shoot a gun in a theater either, right? There are limits, there are common sense limits to how you use a gun, but these laws are they're very similar to the personal protection laws. And if you have a personal protection order against you, you can't have a gun. We already have this. Okay. Why do we need, and this doesn't stop anything. And to assume that these common sense gun violence laws will make a difference, it won't make a difference. In fact, if you look over history of the last 10, 15, 20 years, maybe 50 years, the opposition creates a problem and then gives a solution that only makes the problem worse, so that they will have another opportunity at a later time to make that groundwork of ability to own and carry a firearm smaller. And there is a point at which we have to say enough is enough. And it seems to me that this is the time to do it. This may not do much, but it will do something. And the reason we know it'll do something is because the opposition is against this. Yeah, you know, we know it will do something. So it's incumbent upon us, I think, to pass this. And that's part of my reason. I could talk a lot longer, but I won't. So.
Thank you very much, Commissioner. Anybody down here, Frank? Commissioner Gross.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. When I arrived here tonight, I was very impressed to see all of you folks here. It's a testament to your citizenship that you came to speak to us. And we've heard divergent views in the room as well as on Zoom. And I had not really planned on speaking to this issue. My colleagues have done an excellent job of speaking about it. But I thought I would mention something, and as much as my esteemed colleague, Commissioner Helserman mentioned it, we've all gotten emails and text messages and phone calls on both sides of this issue. And I was particularly offended with one message that I received wherein the sender stated that gun violence was is the single most cause of childhood deaths in this country. And that simply is not true. The single most deadly action for children is abortion. Yeah. And when you look at the numbers, I don't know how many children die from gun violence or the equivalent of it, but I know for a fact that over 1 million children die from abortion every year. And in a country, the land of the free, with the values that we have, I find that to be unconscionable.
Commissioner, did you want to make a comment? Okay. Well, I was going to say all the good things have already been said, but that's not exactly true. There are many, many more. And as long as you have people like the gentleman on this panel, you'll be hearing more like that and from different sources. So, you know, we're not here as an individual entity that will make a big change. We're here as an individual entity that will start something, because this is the beginning. I trust you. With that, we will go on with our voting on this resolution. Madam, anybody else who wants to say anything at all? If you don't do it now, you're not going to do it. That's fine. Could we have a roll call vote, please?
Absolutely. Commissioner Sample,
Yes.
Commissioner Nakagiri,
Hell, yes.
Commissioner Dreck. Commissioner Dreck,
Yes.
Commissioner Deaton,
Yes.
Commissioner Smith,
Yes.
Commissioner Fiani,
Yes.
Commissioner Gross,
Yes.
Commissioner Helserman,
Yes.
Commissioner Domas.
Yes.
Motion carries.
Thank you very much. And if you want to stay and listen to the rest of our program this evening, you're more than welcome to do that. If you feel like leaving us, we understand. And we really appreciate your being here this evening. And God bless all of you.
I heard several times tonight said, what you stand for, you will be put in the thing. I'll stand next to you anytime that you feel you need that help.
Thank you.
You have a lot of support. Thank you very much.
You're going to do the rest of the.
Said my piece at the last one, so.
Thanks for being here.
I saw you smile.
God bless you.
God bless you too. Thank you. Good to see you. Thank you.
Thanks for coming.
Hey.
Okay, we can do that.
Take care. Let's clear the room. Okay. Going to clear the room here.
What's Judy gonna say to us?
Ladies and gentlemen, if you'll give us the room back, we want to clear up some business. All right, you're welcome to stay and you're free to go. Commissioner Drick will carry on with the resolutions in item 12.
Agenda item 12B, top of page 2, is numbered 2023-04-064. It's a resolution authorizing community corrections plan and application for fiscal year 2024 be submitted to the Michigan Department of Corrections on May 1st, 2023. It's brought to us by Community Corrections, and Sarah Applegate will present if we have questions or comments.
So
that are
moved,
needed.
Sample. Support Deaton.
Moved by Sample, support by Deaton. Any questions, comments, objections, or other verbal from the commissioners? I'm seeing none. In that case, I'll close the discussion. We'll move into a voice vote. All those in favor kindly say aye.
Aye.
The voice vote is 9-0. It's unanimous. It passes. Item 12C. It's number 2023-04-065. It's a resolution authorizing the microfilm conversion project and distribution of American Rescue Plan Act funding, brought to us by County Clerk.
Move the resolution, Nakagiri.
Thank you.
Support, Smith.
It's moved by Nakagiri, supported by Helserman, that we proceed with questions, comment, or the pleasure of the board. Seeing none, we'll close comment and discussion and move into voice vote. All those, excuse me, roll call vote. Is that correct? Madam Clerk?
Nakagiri,
Yes.
Commissioner Drick,
Yes.
Commissioner Deaton,
Yes.
Commissioner Smith,
Yes.
Commissioner Fiani,
Yes.
Commissioner Gross,
Yes.
Commissioner Helserman,
Yes.
Commissioner Domas,
Yes.
and Commissioner Sample.
Yes.
Motion carries.
Thank you. Item 12D on the agenda is number 0223-04-006. 066. I was worried about that third six.
Motion, Smith.
It's a resolution to authorize a first quarter budget amendment to the fiscal year 2023 budget. Moved by Smith. Is there a second?
Support Gross.
Support by Gross. This was discussed at FAM. Any further question, comment, objection, discussion? That portion is now closed. Then we move to a roll call vote. Madam Clerk.
Commissioner Smith,
Yes.
Commissioner Fiani,
Yes.
Commissioner Gross,
Yes.
Commissioner Helserman,
Yes.
Commissioner Domas,
Yes.
Commissioner Sample,
Yes.
Commissioner Nakagiri,
Yes.
Commissioner Drick,
Yes.
and Commissioner Deaton.
Yes.
Motion carries.
Thank you. That was unanimous. Next, 12E is an Edward, number 2023-04-067. It's a resolution authorizing an additional contribution to MERS in fiscal year 2023. It's brought to us by administration, discussed at FAM. Any further questions, comment, or
Motion.
objection?
It's got to be moved.
We'll do that first then.
Motion Smith.
Thank you.
Support Gross.
Moved by Smith, support by Gross. Any further question, comment, objection? Seeing no hands, we'll close that portion and move into a roll call vote.
Commissioner Smith,
Yes.
Commissioner Fiani,
Yes.
Commissioner Gross,
Yes.
Commissioner Helserman,
Yes.
Commissioner Domas,
Yes.
Commissioner Sample,
Yes.
Commissioner Nakagiri,
Yes.
Commissioner Drick,
No.
and Commissioner Deaton.
Yes.
Motion carries.
Item number 12F, 2023-04-068. It's a resolution authorizing Livingston County's 2024 annual budget process.
Move it.
And calendar. It's been moved by Commissioner Domas. Is there a second?
Second. Sample.
Any comment, any objection, any discussion?
Right here.
Commissioner Fiani.
I think if I recall correctly, you had a timing issue pertaining to the first budget committee meeting on
Yes.
May 31st.
I circulated an email alerting the commission to the fact that I've been tapped by the circuit court to sit in a case evaluation of probably 25 to 40 files to try to help move the backlog. It's an all-day matter from 9 to 5. I'd be available at 5:15 if we kept it on the same day, but it's still up to the commission.
I would support that, moving it to 5 o'clock on that day. And if we
5:15,
needed,
yeah.
or I'm sorry,
Give me a
5:15.
few minutes to
Yeah.
get there.
So that's, you're amending the motion.
No formal amendment has been made. It's more of a proposal. I'm more than happy though to make the amendment.
I don't think it's necessary. Let's do it.
I'm in support of the time change also.
The time sheet, the time is not specified. The resolution doesn't have a time in it, correct?
Right.
So we're not truly amending, but we need everybody's calendar to be correct. Can we get a sense of the board, a consensus, or should we vote?
Is that the 31st?
Yes, 31st of May.
Yes.
How long will that?
Roughly, it could go from 3 to 5 hours, but
It strongly depends.
Figure
on you.
midnight.
What's that? It strongly depends on you.
Yeah, I may have to cut out early, so, but.
Let's comment from our administrator.
We'll do what we can to make it work. Traditionally, these go from 9 to 2 or 9 to 3. So we also usually break. We're probably not going to do dinner if we do it at night. So we'll, that would save a little time, but usually it's a 5, 6, 7 hour.
Are we
type thing.
committed to that time frame? Can we go for an hour or 2 hours?
If we don't want to accomplish much, we can do it in an hour, but the reality is that this is a pretty important meeting. We go over our revenue estimates, we go over board priorities. This is where we first talk about cost of living adjustments for the upcoming budget. It's usually a 30+ slide presentation. And it's one of the most important conversations we have in the entirety of the budget process. We can amend it if the board would like it to, but in an hour, we're probably not going to get through a whole lot. And to schedule multiple nights, I think would be more difficult than one.
That was originally at 09, right?
It was, at FAM, it was scheduled for 9 in the morning. If you want to move it to 5:15, we can do that. I just wanted to give you an idea of how long the meetings usually are. And we can, we can work through it as quickly as we can, but it is going to be a lot of information.
So it couldn't be moved to another day, is that what you're saying?
Well, it could be. Cindy's not with us this week, and I would definitely want to make sure that she's available if there is a date change. I know the 31st worked. I believe day and night would work for Cindy. I'd have to check with her, but moving to a different day could be possible. I just want to make sure that she was available to be there.
I think it's important that we all be available for that first meeting.
Sure. And so time, I mean, whatever that works for the board, we'll do our best to accommodate. Different dates, I would just want to run by her. And, if you want to adopt this tonight there have been times we've adopted this resolution and after the fact change dates because of scheduling conflicts and things. You certainly have that opportunity as well if something comes up or if something needs to be discussed further after tonight. It's not written in blood.
This resolution authorizes the process. So I agree with Administrator Byrd that we should vote on the process and we can set the date soon.
Is that all right?
We can work with you all to find a date that works best. If it's the 31st or another date. We like to have it sometime late May, early June. So we'd be looking around those couple of weeks. But I agree with Commissioner Gross. That's how we've done this in the past. Just adopt the process and then we finalize the details as we get closer if there's a need.
Will it interfere with the opening of bass season?
I don't know.
I just had to ask that question.
I don't know. I don't know.
Not if we
Do
wait
the
to the
best you
second week in
can.
June.
We will try to keep our priorities straight.
All right. Are we voting on something here?
I think
the process.
Process. We're voting on the process,
All right.
not the date.
At a later date.
This is your
Time, later date, process we're voting on.
Yes.
Fair? That's what you want?
Thanks for taking on more duties, Jay.
All those in favor, voice vote for the process of this resolution, kindly say aye.
Aye.
9-0. Administrator Byrd, can we task you with sorting out the time then, perhaps that day? Thank you. We're to resolution 2023-04-069. It is a resolution to authorize the creation of a new non-union division within MERS and an additional payment of the unfunded liability for 911 central dispatch employees. It's brought to us by Fiscal Services. We discussed it at FAM. Can I have a motion?
So move Helserman.
Support Gross.
Moved by Helserman, support by Gross. Any discussion, question, objection, comment? Seeing none, that portion is closed. Voice vote. All those in favor kindly say aye.
Sorry.
Commissioner Drick, this one requires a roll call vote.
Oh, those sneaky roll calls. Okay, we'll go that way.
Commissioner Helserman,
Yes.
Commissioner Domas.
Yes.
Commissioner Sample,
Yes.
Commissioner Nakagiri,
Yes.
Commissioner Drick,
Yes.
Commissioner Deaton,
Yes.
Commissioner Smith,
Yes.
Commissioner Fiani,
Yes.
and Commissioner Gross.
Yes.
Motion carries.
Thank you. Unanimous. 12H. The number is 2023-04-070. It's a resolution to authorize the creation of a new non-union division within MERS and an additional payment of the unfunded liability for the Emergency Medical Services Department employees. May I get a motion?
So move Gross.
Support Deaton.
Moved by Gross, support by Deaton. We discussed at FAM. Is there any further discussion, question? Seeing none. It's a roll call vote, please.
Commissioner Gross,
Yes.
Commissioner Helserman,
Yes.
Commissioner Domas.
Yes.
Commissioner Sample,
Yes.
Commissioner Nakagiri,
Yes.
Commissioner Drick,
Yes.
Commissioner Deaton,
Yes.
Commissioner Smith,
Yes.
and Commissioner Fiani.
Yes.
Motion carries.
Unanimous. 12I. Number 2023-04-071. It's a resolution to amend the county grant policy brought to us by Fiscal Services. May I have a motion?
So moved, Nakagiri.
Support Deaton.
Moved by Commissioner Nakagiri, support by Commissioner Deaton. Discussed at FAM prior. Any further questions, objections, comment? Seeing none, that portion is closed. We're moving into voice vote. All those in favor kindly say aye.
Aye.
9-0, it is unanimous. Item J, 2023-04-072. A resolution authorizing improvements to the Van Buren Road sanitary sewer relocation / reverse grade correction
Yes. Move
and
it.
distribution of American Rescue Plan Act funding brought to us by the Drain Commissioner. Is there a motion?
Move it.
Support Helserman.
Moved by Domas, supported by Helserman. We discussed it, FAM. Any further questions, argument, objection? Commissioner Gross.
I guess I've got one request. That when I've gone through these various resolutions from the Drain Commission, I seem to be stumbling over something, and that is on their supporting documentation, they indicate an estimated cost, which is generally a significant greater than the actual funds that they're asking for. And I think Mr. Recker in our last meeting indicated that that estimated cost that's provided is an engineering estimate. And so I'm wondering if it wouldn't be more appropriate to label it as such as an engineering estimate, and then, you know, be clear as to what we feel the actual cost to us will be.
Yeah, I turned in a couple more of these to Nathan earlier this week, and I included estimated cost in our portion on those newer forms. So yeah, that was definitely something that caused confusion earlier.
Yes, thank you.
Commissioner, would there be something that we ought to change on this particular resolution to
No.
make it
Not
correct?
necessarily. No.
No, okay, I have no other questions on the resolution.
The future ones, it's taken care of, right? Thank you. Any further comment, question, or objection? Seeing none. As to the Van Buren Road sanitary sewer resolution, the discussion is over. It's a roll call vote.
Commissioner Domas,
Yes.
Commissioner Sample,
Yes.
Commissioner Nakagiri,
Yes.
Commissioner Drick,
Yes.
Commissioner Deaton,
Yes.
Commissioner Smith,
Yes.
Commissioner Fiani,
Yes.
Commissioner Gross,
Yes.
and Commissioner Helserman.
Yes.
Motion carries.
Thank you. It is, we're now to resolution 12K. It is numbered 2023-04-073. It's a resolution authorizing improvements to Cahata and Barnum Drain and distribution of American Rescue Plan Act funding brought to us by the Drain Commissioner. May I get a motion?
So moved Helserman.
Support Smith.
Moved by Commissioner Helserman, support by Commissioner Smith. Discussed earlier in FAM. Is there any further question, objection, or comment? Commissioner Nakagiri.
Yeah, I wanted to find out a little bit more. This is the one that got started early. Who specifically gave authorization to start?
196 of the drain code gives the drain commissioner the ability to do maintenance.
Rob, can you please speak into the microphone? We're having a hard time hearing you on Zoom.
I'm sorry, there.
Thank you.
So our authority to do maintenance under the drain code, it rests in section 196 of the statute specifically.
Yeah, I was asking who. Was that you? Was that Brian? Was that somebody else that said, hey, let's go ahead and start this?
That would be me.
Thank you. You know, I'll be voting no. I think this passed. This did pass in finance. I voted no in finance because I view this as an unauthorized expenditure, that the authority is that we started on a project and then now we're asking for funding that not only is it I'll say unauthorized use, but it also is encroaching, taking the authority of the Board of Commissioners. I know there are countywide electeds who would just rip my head off if the Board of Commissioners did something to encroach on their authority, and rightfully so. And so I will share with my colleagues. I went as far as finding out, you know, what are the what is the ability of the Board of Commissioners to impose some kind of penalty? Well, you know, a penalty could be as little as a letter in the reprimand in the employee that specifically authorized this in their file. But actually, we have no authority to do that. You know, we are a co-employer. The ability to do a reprimand is rests with the drain commissioner. Our authority in terms if we were to impose some kind of penalty to try to deter this behavior in the future, because this is the second or third time this has happened, our ability rests in the budget. So I just wanted to mention that to my colleagues that if you saw this as an egregious, as egregiously as I do, that maybe you would consider taking some action during the budget process. Thank you.
Yes, sir.
This was stated as an emergency need for this train. It was overdue.
This was deferred maintenance that
Yeah.
needed to be done. Yes.
Had it already, or had it ever been budgeted before the ARPA funds came out?
Well, the way the drain code works, we're limited by a $5,000 per mile expense limitation in the statute. So it's not really a budget per se, but we'd attempt to address parts of this bad section of tile in previous years without success.
Can you give us a little more detail on the necessity of this project? This is it's a maintenance project. Is it?
This is a maintenance project under the
And if you
statute.
don't do maintenance, then so.
Well, the drain commissioner's affirmative obligation under section 196 of the statute is to keep the water moving. So if there's ponding or if water is not moving in the system, you're exposing the office to some significant problems.
Some of my experiences in the district that I represented involved drains that had not been maintained, and they become collections of debris, and they don't perform the function of a drain. Most of these drains are surface drains or excavated drains, are not all buried pipes.
Some of them are a combination of
some of them are
open and enclosed
combination.
systems. Yes.
But the thing is, if one end of the drain doesn't work, the whole drain doesn't work. That's the point I guess I'm making.
That's exactly, if you don't take care of maintenance in a lower portion of the system, the upper portions of the system all suffer.
Okay, thank you.
Commissioner Gross.
Yes, sir.
Thank you. Mr. Record, is it true or not true that in the ordinary course of business activity, I guess, if we were not looking at ARPA funding to cover this, you would have covered it and we would have never seen it at all? You would have done it as a normal course of business. There would have been no requirement to come to the board for approval to do this job.
That's correct. It would have been a little more costly for the residents, but yes, that's correct. I would have had to done it.
So with that in mind, I'd like to remind my colleagues that if that's the case, the only reason we're seeing this is because a decision was made to cover it with ARPA funds. And while it was most unfortunate that the work was started, and I take responsibility for pointing that out, I had no intent to embarrass anybody, just just that didn't make good business sense to me, so to speak. But it's all because we want to fund this particular project with ARPA funding. Otherwise, we most likely would not have seen it at all. So I'm satisfied. I believe the work needed to be done. I feel there was an honest mistake made, And I think we should approve this resolution to get the job finished. Thank you.
Are you still up? Yes, I thought so.
Any further comment or question?
Commissioner Helserman.
Just in my mind, we gave the Drain Commission the idea that this was going to be taken care of. I think that Mr. Recker probably, if he had anticipated this, these questions, he either would have taken it off the ARPA funds and done it anyways, and told the people of Cahockta Township that they'd be footing more of the bill. And I kind of don't think that that is either smart for the county or this commission. So if I were the referee, I would not call this foul. So I would let the game play. Let the people play.
Anyone else? I think he's up, but I'll do it anyhow.
Call for roll call vote, please, Madam Clerk.
Thank you.
Commissioner Helserman,
Yes.
Commissioner Domas, Commissioner Sample,
Yes.
Commissioner Nakagiri,
No.
Commissioner Drick,
No.
Commissioner Deaton,
Yes.
Commissioner Smith,
Yes.
Commissioner Fiani,
Yes.
and Commissioner Gross.
Yes.
Motion carries.
Next up, resolution number 2023-04-074. It's a resolution approving the distribution of American Rescue Act funding for the improvements to the Howell City Drain. Can I get a motion?
So move, Helserman.
Second, Sample.
Moved by Helserman, second by Sample. I understand there's a revision, if it isn't in your packet, that the number 250,000 is truly 125,000. Does everybody have that in their packet? So they know we're voting for 125. All set. Any further questions or concerns or comment? Seeing none, that portion is closed. We'll go to a roll call vote, please, for this drain matter.
Commissioner Helserman,
Yes.
Commissioner Domas.
Yes.
Commissioner Sample,
Yes.
Commissioner Nakagiri.
Yes.
Commissioner Drick,
Yes.
Commissioner Deaton,
Yes.
Commissioner Smith,
Yes.
Commissioner Fiani,
Yes.
and Commissioner Gross.
Yes.
Motion carries.
Thank you. Item number 11 under paragraph 12 is denoted as 2023-04-075. It's a resolution authorizing improvements to lot drain and distribution of American Rescue Plan Act funding brought to us by the Drain Commissioner. May I get a motion?
So move, Helserman.
Second, Sample.
Co-moved. We'll call it
I
Helserman.
have Commissioner Helserman and seconded by Commissioner Sample.
Thank you. Motion, may I have a motion?
We have it. We have the
Tie goes to the
motion.
runner, I thought.
It was a
So
battle,
have a
but we
motion
have
by
it.
Commissioner Helserman, support by Commissioner
Commissioner
Sample, a
Sample.
little discussion, then we can move on and vote.
I like your style.
Roll call vote.
Commissioner Helserman,
Yes.
Commissioner Domas,
Yes.
Commissioner Sample,
Yes.
Commissioner Nakagiri.
Yes.
Commissioner Drick,
Yes.
Commissioner Deaton,
Yes.
Commissioner Smith,
Yes.
Commissioner Fiani,
Yes.
and Commissioner Gross.
Yes.
Motion carries.
Thank you. Item N, numbered 2023-04-076. It's a resolution approving the distribution of American Rescue Act funding to, or for the improvements in the wood drain. Can I get a motion?
Move it.
Second sample.
Moved by Domas, seconded by Commissioner Sample. Discussed at FAM. Any further questions, objections, comment from commissioners? Commissioner Deaton.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Just a quick comment, since we have so many news agencies still on and a few folks here in the dais. We discuss these in length at the FAM. So I just want you to know, as we go through them pretty quickly here, that the Drain Commission's done a great job at filling us in, and we appreciate it. And I just wanted to put that note in there. Thank you.
Just one little
Commissioner
note, if I
Hauserman.
could, Mr. Chair. This, whoever authorized the building of a barn across this drain is partly at fault here. So somebody built
And
a
your
barn.
point is?
That's a point of interest.
Let the record show. We've been entertained.
With that interest, I'll close the discussion and go for a roll call vote, Madam Chair. Or Madam Secretary.
Can I be Madam Clerk? I don't want to be Madam Chair. Commissioner Domas,
Yes.
Commissioner Sample,
Yes.
Commissioner Nakagiri,
Yes.
Commissioner Drick,
Yes.
Commissioner Deaton,
Yes.
Commissioner Smith,
Yes.
Commissioner Fiani,
Yes.
Commissioner Gross,
Yes.
and Commissioner Helserman.
Yes.
Motion carries.
Thank you. We're now at item 13 entitled Accounts Payable Reports. 13A reads Claims dated April 24, 2023. 13B reads Payables dated April 1 through April 14, 2023. Can I get a motion?
I move that we approve both reports.
Thank you.
Fort Smith.
Motion by Commissioner Gross, support by Commissioner Smith to approve both in one vote. Roll call?
This is voice.
Voice vote. All those kindly say aye that are in favor.
Aye.
Any opposed? 9-0 unanimous. We're at our second call to the public, item number 14 on our agenda. And this is a 2-minute call to the public.
No, just get up and just clear it with.
We'll start with the people in the room. If you would like to talk to us, give your name loud and clear when you do say it, so our Madam Clerk can keep track.
Rob Rodriguez Pelazari, Brighton Township. I just want to commend all of you commissioners in your support of becoming a constitutional county. On social media right now, I know it doesn't mean a whole lot because everybody is friends on social media, but I can tell you right now, there are people literally in tears over the hope that you've given them. And I'm not talking about one or even 100. There's thousands of people right now that are just blowing up my social media right now in appreciation. You guys literally have no idea what you have given the people of the state of Michigan. So I applaud you. Thank you.
Person in the room would like to participate in a 2-minute call to the public. Seeing no hands. Does it appear that any are on Zoom? Anybody raising their hand on Zoom for call to the public?
I do not see any, Commissioner.
Thank you kindly. The call to the public number 14 is now closed. Can I get an motion to adjourn?
So move, Helserman.
Support Deaton.
Helserman moved, support by Gross. All those voice vote aye, please.
Aye.
9-0 unanimous. We stand adjourned. Thank you.